Chapter 27. Emma. Taking a deep breath, I smooth my palms over the dress Joffrey ironed for me and try to rub away the scuff marks on my high-heeled boots, the newish ones I'd worn on my first real date with Marcus. Inside my dimly lit studio and on New York's muddy streets, they looked fine, nice even. But here, in the middle of Marcus's bright, gleaming entryway, there's no hiding what they really are. Cheap knockoffs that have seen better days. Oh well, at least my gray dress and the beige woolen coat I'm about to put on are blessedly cat hair free. Again, courtesy of Joffrey. I left work a half-hour early in case of traffic, but Wilson got me to Manhattan in record time, so I decided to stop by Marcus's place and make myself as presentable as possible before heading over to the restaurant. I don't want to embarrass Marcus in front of his investors, at least any more than I'm bound to embarrass him just by being who I am. The scuff marks on the boots are showing no signs of disappearing, so I give up and straighten, about to leave, when a big white furball streaks toward me and jumps straight into my arms. Puffs! Instinctively, I catch the cat against my chest, which means my gray dress, which was already pilled and rather sad-looking despite the ironing, is now also covered with white hair.
Ms. Walsh, are you all right?
Joffrey appears in front of me as if by magic, though it's more likely he was chasing Mr. Puffs. The cat undoubtedly got into some mischief and, being smart and sneaky, decided to seek refuge with me.
Here, let me take Puffy from you.
Puffy? Suppressing a hysterical giggle, I hand over the cat, who gives me a betrayed look that promises much retribution later, and walk over to the hallway mirror. It's even worse than I thought. The white hair is all over my chest, arms, and even the top portion of the dress's skirt, probably as a result of the cat's long, fluffy tail.
Here, let me help you.
Deftly, the butler lowers Mr. Puffs to the floor, whips out a sticky roller from his pocket, and goes to town on all the hair clinging to my dress. 3 minutes later, the dress again looks its best, which is not saying much. But you have to work with what you've got, so I thank Joffrey, throw on my coat, and hurry out to the car before any more of my cats decide to share their fur with me. The ride to Midtown from Marcus's place in Tribeca takes about 20 minutes, and the entire time, I'm doing breathing exercises to try to calm myself. I hate feeling so anxious and insecure. It reminds me of when I was an awkward teen trying to adjust to my changing body and hair that never wanted to behave. It also reminds me of how I felt before my first real date with Marcus. Thankfully, I'm no longer insecure around him. There's nothing like a man sexing you up 3 times a day to assure a woman of her attractiveness. But I'm still acutely cognizant that I'm not what Marcus originally wanted. Joffrey could iron and de-hair my clothes from now till eternity, and I still wouldn't be able to hold a candle to someone like Emmeline. To my relief, the breathing exercises help, and by the time we pull up to a fancy hotel on Park Avenue, I'm calm enough to make my way through the gilded lobby toward the restaurant in the back without stumbling over my feet. I'm about 5 minutes early, but everybody's already seated at the round table in the semi-private nook the hostess leads me to. 2 bottles of wine, red and white, are sitting in the middle of the table, and everyone's glasses are already filled. Only one empty chair remains, and it's next to Marcus, whose gaze goes to me as soon as I walk in.
There you are, he says,
standing up to greet me, and as he clasps my hands in a strong, warm grasp and bends to brush a kiss over my cheek, I feel more of my nervousness ebbing away.
Would you like something to drink, ma'am?
The waiter asks as I sit down in the chair Marcus pulls out for me. Perhaps some wine? Mr. Corelli has ordered an excellent Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot Grigio for the table, but we also have a wide selection of— The Pinot Grigio is perfect, thank you. I normally drink only water, but a little wine might be just the thing today. Now that I'm seated and everyone's staring at me, my heartbeat is speeding up again. God, I hope I don't have a piece of broccoli stuck in my teeth. Or some cat hair somewhere.
Everyone, this is Emma Walsh,
Marcus announces, surveying our dinner companions like a monarch would his subjects. and then he goes around the table introducing each person, or rather, each man, as I'm the only woman present. To my left is Ashton Bancroft, the fitness empire mogul whom Marcus introduces as a good friend from business school. Unlike everyone else at the table, he's dressed casually, in jeans and a cream-colored cashmere sweater that fits his muscled torso like a glove. His sun-streaked hair is on the longish side, down past his ears, and to my slightly odd eyes, he looks like a cross between Brad Pitt in Troy and Chris Hemsworth in Thor. Shaking my hand, he grins, flashing dazzling white teeth, and says in a smooth, deep voice that makes me think of melted caramel, "Pleasure to meet you, Emma." Before I can recover from the potency of that charm attack, the introductions continue. On the other side of Ashton is Robert, Bob, Johnson, a stiff-looking older guy who manages the Teachers Union pension fund. To Bob's left are Jack and James Giles, two round-faced brothers in their mid-40s whom Marcus introduces as his long-time investors. They're the ones who have no online presence, meaning they're old money or something even sketchier. Next to them is Grigory Moskov, the tech billionaire, and immediately to Marcus's right is Weston Long, the real estate tycoon. Both are tall, athletically built men around Marcus's age, and though they don't resemble him physically, they project a similar kind of power and self-assurance. It's the I could buy a small country with spare change look, and they have it in spades. Smiling as brightly as I can, I nod and repeat all the names as Marcus says them, so I can better remember them. It helps that he told me who these people are ahead of time, and I did a Google search on them. I'm a highly visual learner, which means it's easier for me to retain information I've seen written down, or written out in my phone's search bar. Finally, the introductions are made, and as the men resume their conversations from earlier, I gratefully shift my focus to the menu lying in front of me. Unfortunately, it's all in French, or at least half the words are, because I have no idea what most of the dishes are. Well, I do know what escargot is, and I intend to avoid it. I've never tried snails before, and I'd rather do it when my stomach isn't so unsettled. Also, there are no prices next to any of the items on the menu. Is that normal? Does that mean this is something like an all-inclusive buffet, or are the prices so high they left them off so as not to spoil people's appetites? A big, warm hand covers my knee under the table, and I look up to find Marcus watching me. Leaning in, he asks softly, "How are you, kitten? Did you have any trouble getting here?" My cheeks grow warm, though I doubt anyone heard Marcus's endearment. "No trouble," I murmur, acutely cognizant of all the curious eyes covertly watching us. I half expected Marcus to ignore me after the introductions. After all, he's here to schmooze with his investors. But that's not what seems to be happening. Though he didn't introduce me as his girlfriend, the possessive way he's leaning over me proclaims it as loudly as if he'd pinned a label to my chest. "So, Emma, you're visiting us from Boston, right?" A smooth male voice says from my left, and I turn to face Ashton. "Boston? No, I'm afraid not." Where did he get that from? "Oh," he frowns. "I could have sworn you're thinking of someone else," Marcus says, his tone hardening. "Emma is from Brooklyn, born and raised." Ashton's face clears. "Never mind then. I thought for a moment. But yes, the last name is different too. So you're a native New Yorker, Emma?" I force myself to smile and nod. "Yes, indeed. How about yourself?" To my relief, my voice comes out normal and steady, unaffected by this sudden tightness in my chest. There's only one reason why Marcus's friend would think I'm someone else. He's got me confused with Emmeline, which means Marcus spoke to him about her but didn't mention me. "I actually am from Boston, or at least my family is," Ashton says, giving me another one of his dazzling smiles. Only this time I don't feel even the tiniest bit dazzled, the tightness in my chest transforming into a stabbing ache. I don't want my mind going down that path, but I can't help it. It's impossible to ignore the implications of Ashton's mistake. At some point in the not-too-distant past, Marcus had been serious enough about Emmeline to talk about her to his friend, to tell him her full name and where she lived. Does that mean he lied to me? Had there been more than that one dinner date between him and Emmeline? Was he seeing her even as he was pursuing me? Is that why Ashton knows so much about her but nothing about me? Could he be seeing her still? "Excuse me," I say tightly, pushing back my chair as I stand up. "I'll be right back." And before anyone can stop me, I run to the bathroom in the back.
Chapter 28. Marcus. Only my investor's presence at the table keeps me from running after Emma and rearranging Ashton's model-perfect features with my fist. I completely forgot I mentioned Emmeline to him when we hung out at the bar that time, and now Emma is thinking God knows what. I want to go after her and explain that Ashton only knows about Emmeline because he's the one who introduced me to the matchmaker. But if I get up now, it will look like we're embroiled in some kind of domestic drama. That, or stealing away for a covert bathroom fuck. Either way, my shy kitten would feel embarrassed, and that's the last thing I want. My best bet is to let her calm down and return to the table, and then explain the whole thing later. Hopefully, she won't hold this stupidity against me. Ashton wasn't even supposed to be at this dinner originally. He's not an investor with my fund, at least not yet. But he emailed me over the weekend, wanting to meet up to discuss how to deal with all the cash his rapidly growing business is bringing in, and I decided to invite him to this event. He may not want the money, but he's got it, so he might as well invest with me. "Sorry, man," he says in a low voice when Emma disappears behind a column and the others at the table politely resume their conversations. The whole Emmeline thing totally threw me. It was Emmeline my aunt's matchmaker friend set you up with, right? I didn't misremember her name? I force my tightly clenched hand to uncurl. No, you didn't. And it's my bad. I should have filled you in. And I would have, if I'd remembered. But my mind has been so occupied with all things Emma lately, it's a wonder I didn't forget about this dinner altogether. We'll talk more about it later, I continue, my voice low and even. I don't need everyone here in my business. For now, forget about Emmeline and never mention her again. You got it. Amusement glimmers in Ashton's blue-gray eyes as he picks up his wine glass. I take it things are going well with you and the new Emma? Fucker. She's the only Emma, and yes, I'm going to marry her. He freezes, the wine glass halfway to his face. You're joking, right? Do I look like I'm fucking joking? Did I hear something about marriage? James cuts in from across the table, his beady eyes gleaming with poorly concealed excitement as he leans forward. Corelli, are congratulations in order here? Was the Herald right for once? Jack and I were skeptical when we saw that article, but she's the mystery redhead, isn't she? Fuck. This is much too soon for this. I haven't even convinced Emma to move in with me, much less gotten her to reciprocate my feelings, and the Giles brothers are notorious gossips. For all that, they're as private about their own dealings as can be. James Giles must have the hearing of a hunting dog, because there's no way he should have overheard my private conversation with Ashton. I haven't proposed yet, so keep it on the down low, I warn, even though it's futile. By tomorrow, everyone in our social circle will know about my upcoming nuptials, and short of murdering some very prominent individuals, there's nothing I can do to stop it. At my words, all conversations at the table come to a halt, and Jack Giles claps his hands, looking just as excited as his brother. A secret proposal? How fun! Where are you planning to do it? Not Disney World, I'm sure. I clench my molars. I haven't decided yet. So you're not joking? Ashton finally recovers enough to put down his glass. You're getting hitched to the new Emma. I glare at him, fighting a renewed urge to slug him. Yes, to the one and only Emma. That's wonderful news. Congratulations, Marcus, Bob Johnson says, as polite and reserved as always. Yes, congratulations, Weston and Grigori echo, though there's a definite cynical edge to Weston's smile. Sure enough, a moment later, the real estate mogul leans toward me and says quietly, "Do let me know if you need a good attorney. I know someone who specializes in ironclad prenuptial agreements." "Thank you, but that won't be necessary. With Emma, I'd have to go to court to force her to take some of my money in a divorce. Not that there will ever be a divorce. There's no way I'm letting my kitten go once we're married." "To the beautiful young couple," James says, lifting his wine glass with a Cheshire cat smile. "May your union prove long and fruitful." "Yes, to Corelli and his bride." His brother jumps in, lifting his own glass, and everyone at the table, even Ashton, who's still looking at me like I lost my mind, follows his example, congratulating me on my upcoming marriage with a toast.
Chapter 29. Emma. Do not jump to conclusions. Do not jump to conclusions. I repeat the words like a mantra as I wash my hands and dry them on the cloth-like paper towel provided in the luxurious restaurant bathroom. Despite the bit of blush I applied to my cheeks at Marcus's place, my face looks much too pale in the mirror, my freckles starkly visible. As determined as I am not to jump to conclusions, I can't ignore the fact that the conclusions aren't good. Men are dogs, Kendall told me before my second date with Marcus, and I know she spoke from experience. Unlike me, she's dated all sorts of guys, rich and poor, handsome and plain, and she's been cheated on more than once, whereas I've only had 2 boyfriends before Marcus, and both of them had been too nerdy and socially awkward to so much as think about running around on me. They'd been safe, if only because no other girl wanted them. Marcus, on the other hand, is catnip for the female population. I know it. I see it in the covetous gazes that follow him each time we're out in public. His looks, that aura of power he projects. He wouldn't even need to smile at a woman for her panties to drop like an elevator with severed cables. And that's without her knowing he's a billionaire. No wonder that newspaper called him one of New York's most eligible bachelors. He's far, far out of my league, and I can't let myself forget that, no matter how much time we spend together and how into me he seems. So the question is, has he been seeing Emmeline? Am I just his side piece, someone he's entertaining himself with until he decides it's time to marry the real deal? I don't want to believe that of Marcus, but what other explanation is there? Why else would he mention Emmeline to his friend? True, I've told Kendall about every date I've gone on, but it's different for men, especially alpha types like Marcus. I can't see him calling up his buddy to spill the beans after some random going-nowhere date, or even mentioning such a date in passing. If he talked about a woman, it's because she meant something. It's because it was more than a single dinner date. So yes, this is the conclusion I have to jump to, the only logical deduction to make. But if I'm just a temporary fuck, why bring me to this dinner and introduce me to all of these important people? To his friend, who knows about Emmeline. More importantly, why try so hard to get me to move in? I take a calming breath, then another. Maybe there is a logical explanation for Ashton's blunder. At the very least, I owe Marcus a chance to provide one. The man I've fallen in love with may be ambitious and ruthless, but he's no cheater. Maybe he saw Emmeline a couple of times after I sent him away after the broken door incident. Or maybe... Emma? Oh my God, is that you? Startled, I turn away from the mirror and come face to face with Janie, my other best friend from college. I haven't seen her in months, not since she started dating her boyfriend, Landon. She found him on the same dating app that led to my fateful meeting with Marcus, the app she made me join. It is you! Beaming, Janie envelops me in a perfumed hug that I eagerly return before stepping back to study her. She looks different from before, sleeker and harder, like she lost weight. And that's not the only change. You dyed your hair, I exclaim, marveling at the pin-straight platinum blonde locks that replaced the dirty blonde waves that had been her signature style since middle school. Miss Natural, Kendall dubbed Janie in college, as our friend religiously avoided chemicals, fragrances, and dyes, always letting her hair air dry and wearing only a touch of homemade mascara on her lashes. Now, though, she looks like she stepped out of some glossy magazine, with a full layer of foundation on her pretty face and her lips covered in blood-red lipstick. Oh, yeah. She self-consciously touches her perfectly styled shoulder-length bob with red-tipped fingers. Even her manicure is glossy and on point. Landon likes it like this. Well, you look amazing, I say honestly. Not like herself, but definitely sleek and polished, her newly trim figure clad in a stylish black dress. What are you doing here? What have you been up to? She grins, revealing teeth several shades wider than I recall them being. I was just about to ask you the same thing. I'm here with Landon. He got a VP position at Goldman Sachs a couple of months ago, and we're here with his team, celebrating an IPO they just launched. What about you? What brings you here? Her gaze travels over me from head to toe, lingering for a moment on my scuffed boots, and I can sense her confusion. A fancy mid-town restaurant popular with a Wallstreet crowd must be the last place she'd expect to run into me. Oh, I'm here with someone too. Naturally, I blush as I say this, and Janie's green eyes flare with curiosity. Who? A guy I'm seeing. It's been so long since Janie and I have talked that she feels almost like a stranger, and I'm hesitant to get into the whole messy story, especially since Marcus and the others are waiting for me. Unfortunately, my non-answer only piques her curiosity. Who is this guy? What does he do? Where does he work? I had no idea you were dating someone. It's a fairly recent development, and he's in finance. Janie gasps. Really? Like my Landon? Oh, we should go on a double date one of these days. Let the boys get to know one another. Sure. Until she mentioned Goldman Sachs. I'd forgotten that Landon worked on Wall Street as well. Or maybe I never knew it in the first place. I'd only met the guy a couple of times, early on in their relationship, and the only thing I recall about him is that he sneers a lot and loves putting down other people. Needless to say, I'm less than keen on this double date. But I do miss Janie, and since she and Landon appear to be glued at the hip, I may need to tolerate him for her sake. Oh, awesome. She hugs me again, enveloping me in a cloud of perfume. Fragrance tolerance being yet another thing about her that's apparently changed, and says, I have to run now, but I'll call you soon and we'll set something up, okay? Sounds good, I say, and watch her rush out of the bathroom, her sexy red-soled pumps clicking loudly on the tile floor. When she's gone, I turn back to the mirror, fix my fluffed-by-the-hug curls the best I can, and exit the bathroom after her. Chapter 30. Emma. When I return to the table, Marcus is talking about his fund's latest strategies, and everyone is attentively listening. So I quietly slip into my seat next to him and spread my napkin over my lap. The encounter with Janie distracted me from my Emmeline-induced angst, but now that I'm back here, I'm thinking about it again, which is why it takes me a minute to notice that I'm the recipient of all sorts of covert glances. Even as the men are listening to Marcus talk about the fund's returns, they're eyeing me with expressions ranging from confusion, Ashton, to amusement, the Giles brothers, to cynicism, Weston Long, to a peculiar mixture of the above, the rest. Did something happen, or did I commit some faux pas by going to the bathroom when I did? Excuse me, gentlemen, and lady. The waiter must not have spotted me at first, because the last bit is hastily tacked on. Are you ready to order, or would you like a few more minutes? Marcus looks up at him. I think we're ready, unless... He glances at me. Emma, would you like a few more minutes? I'm good. I smile widely to hide my nervousness. Please start with someone else, and I'll decide by the time it's my turn. I hope. I still have no clue what half of these words on the menu mean. Marcus seems to discern my dilemma because as the waiter starts taking everyone's orders, he leans over and murmurs into my ear. Would you like me to order for you, kitten? Yes, please, I whisper back. Nothing too exotic, okay? I don't want snails. He grins. You got it. When the waiter comes to us, he orders a Canette Saint-Baume for himself, and Coquille Saint-Jacques for me, with celery remoulade au crabe appetizer for us to share. I again wonder about the lack of prices on the menu, but decide it's for the best. The cost of this appetizer alone might exceed my weekly grocery budget, so why stress myself unnecessarily? I'd rather not know how much Marcus is shelling out for this outing, though if it's a business expense, it might be tax-deductible.
So, Emma,
Ashton says when the waiter leaves, and Grigori distracts Marcus by asking about his views on tech startups in China.
what do you do? And how long have you and Marcus been seeing each other?
As he speaks, he watches me intently, like I'm a puzzle he needs to figure out. Is that because of the Emmeline thing? Is he surprised that Marcus has been seeing us both? Pushing the stomach-churning thought out of my head, I pick up my wine glass and take a sip. I work at a bookstore, and we met about a month ago. What about you? Marcus said you've known each other since business school?
That's right.
Ashton seems to shake off whatever was causing his confusion and gives me another one of his stunning smiles.
We were assigned to be partners on a project in corporate finance. As you'd expect, Marcus completely took over, and before I knew it, he had the whole thing done. I barely had to lift a finger. Not that I wanted to. It was soon after that class that I figured out all that MBA bullshit's not for me and dropped out.
My interest level spikes. Really? You dropped out of business school? That's the last thing I would have expected from a man as successful as this. Not that there aren't plenty of examples of high achievers dropping out of college. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs immediately come to mind. But business school is different. In my experience, people working on their MBAs tend to be more like Marcus, ambitious and laser-focused. They know what they want out of life, and the MBA is a stepping stone to get them there. Unless... Was that because your business was starting to take off? Ashton laughs.
Hardly. I had no business at the time, and I didn't want one. Still don't, but what are you going to do?
He sighs and drains his wine in a few long swallows. Setting the glass down, he says,
You know how some people fuck up everything they touch?
Uh-huh. Is he saying the fitness empire he's building is a fuck-up on his part?
Well, that's me in reverse. The Vancroft Midas touch turned out to be a genetic affliction. All I wanted was to be a personal trainer, get my clients healthy and fit. But then this happened.
He waves a hand with such a disgusted look that a laugh bubbles up my throat. Unwanted riches, huh?
Completely unwanted, he says with a grimace. My family just about had a conniption when I quit business school, but now my father's proud of me. It's awful.
I cluck my tongue. You poor thing. Or rich thing. Not sure what's the appropriate expression of sympathy here. He grins wryly, and I catch a glimpse of the man underneath the golden boy devil-may-care mask. A man who, in his own way, is as driven and ambitious as Marcus. No matter what Ashton says, his success is no accident of fate or genetics. He made it happen, even if he's not ready to admit it to himself.
Did I hear some talk of unwanted riches?
Marcus says, turning toward us. With his dark hair neatly brushed back, his shirt perfectly starched, and his pinstriped suit fitting him like second skin, he looks completely at home in our ritzy surroundings, and, to my eyes, infinitely hotter than all the other men here put together.
Because as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing, he continues, blue eyes gleaming with amusement. And if a certain someone happens to have a problem of excess funds, I have the perfect solution.
Ashton chuckles.
Let me guess. I need to give all my money to you so you can grow it and create an even bigger headache for me. You got it.
Marcus's answering grin is all teeth.
So how about it? We can start with something small, say $5 million, and go from there.
I nearly choke on the sip of wine I just took into my mouth. $5 million is considered small? Ashton rolls his eyes.
Yeah, the fucking money's yours. Why else am I here tonight, right? But $5 million won't even make a dent in all the cash I'm swimming in. I'll give you 20 to start, and if you don't double it too quickly, I'll give you more by Christmas time. I'll do my best to keep your returns moderate,
Marcus says dryly, and across the table, the Giles brothers, who must have been listening to the whole thing, burst into laughter. To my relief, the dinner goes smoothly from that point on. I share the delicious crab appetizer with Marcus and even brave a bite of Ashton's escargot. He offers it to me upon learning that I've never tried the classic French dish. It's surprisingly good, all garlicky and buttery, with a texture that reminds me of a firm mushroom. By the time the main course comes out, I feel infinitely more at ease, and I find myself chatting not only with Ashton, who's sitting next to me, but also with most of the others at the table. For some reason, everyone is curious about how long Marcus and I have been dating and how we met, as well as what I do, and as I ask them questions in return, I find that Kendall was right. Rich people are, ultimately, just people. Grigory Moskov, the tech billionaire, immigrated to the United States as a child and still has some relatives in Russia. He's also a serious dog lover. His Siberian husky travels with him everywhere. A major perk of owning a private plane, he explains. I show him pictures of my cats and we bond over our furry companions, so much so that he teaches me how to say cat in Russian. It's kot, if male, and koshka, if female, though there are about 1 million cute diminutives like kotik, kishka, kotyonak, and so on. Weston Long is a slightly tougher nut to crack. According to Ashton's discreetly murmured explanation, the California-based real estate tycoon has just gone through an acrimonious divorce and thinks all women are after his money. That hits a bit too close to home for me, so I try to be polite but distant with him, and we end up discussing books, specifically the latest mystery by my favorite author, who, as it turns out, is Long's favorite as well. In contrast, the Giles brothers, who are so alike in mannerisms and appearance that I have trouble thinking of them as separate individuals, are happy to talk about anything and everything under the sun. I soon learn that they are indeed old money, something to do with weapons manufacturing during World War II, though they're vague about the specifics, and that they know every celebrity I can name. They also pry out of me the fact that I was raised by my grandparents after my mother was killed in an accident, and that I don't know my father. The only thing I'm keeping my mouth shut about is the name mix-up, through which Marcus and I met. All I've been saying tonight is that we ran into each other at a restaurant in Brooklyn, on the off chance someone here knows Emmeline. The Giles brothers seem to know everyone, so I wouldn't be surprised. The most reserved of the bunch is Bob Johnson, the older guy who manages the pension fund. But after I talk to him for a bit, I see that he's actually just shy. I warm up to him immediately. I love shy people. And by the end of the night, I know all about his 2 grown daughters and the infant grandson he adores, as well as his long career in the California school system. He was a math teacher for many years before going to work at some quant shop on Wall Street, from which he recently got hired to manage the teachers' union pension fund.
Their investments are completely undiversified, very heavy on fixed income and blue-chip stocks,
he tells me, and I nod sympathetically, though I have only a vague idea of what that means.
They haven't even considered hedge funds. Can you believe that? No wonder they're worried about being able to pay all the upcoming retirees' pensions.
Yeah, no wonder, I echo, and that seems to be enough to keep him talking about the subpar returns the pension fund's been getting and how he plans to change all that, starting with allocating a greater portion of their assets to higher risk, higher reward alternatives like Marcus's fund. That's a great idea, I tell him, and I mean it. I may not know much about diversification strategies and proper investment allocation, but I do know Marcus, and if anyone can ensure that all those teachers keep getting their pensions, he'd be the guy. Bob beams at me and starts using even more finance lingo, at which point Marcus joins the conversation, and I gladly focus on my coffee and dessert, which thankfully isn't a single berry, but a panna cotta with a layer of berries at the top. Finally, everyone's done eating and drinking, and Marcus hands our waiter a credit card to cover the bill. A bill that has to be astronomical because most of the men have been ordering extra alcohol throughout dinner. Brandy, whiskey, cognac, and I suspect they haven't been getting the discount stuff. As Marcus is signing the receipt, I glance at the entrance and spot Janie standing there with her boyfriend, Landon. He looks exactly as I remember, tall, blonde, and handsome in a thin-lipped, country club sort of way. Both he and Janie are staring at me open-mouthed. I'm guessing because of the company I'm with. Smiling, I wave to them, and Janie hesitantly smiles and waves back. Landon leans down to whisper something in her ear. My friend looks uncertain, but he gives her a slight push, and she heads toward me, with him following. I stand up to greet them as they approach. "Hi again, Janie, and hello, Landon. It's good to see you," I say, extending my hand toward him with a polite smile. I have a strong suspicion he's not here for me, but rather my companions. A suspicion that's instantly corroborated because as soon as he shakes my hand and mumbles, "Good to see you," his gaze homes in on my date, and it's as if I don't exist. "Landon Worth," he announces, sticking out his hand at Marcus. "I'm Emma's friend." Marcus's eyebrows rise as he glances at me, but I keep my face blank. There's no way I'm claiming this guy I barely know as a friend. I'm beginning to form a theory as to why Janie disappeared after they started dating, and it's not a good one. Marcus's return introduction is curt, the handshake brief. "Marcus Corelli." "And this is my friend from college, Janie Brandt," I say, gesturing toward her. "We ran into each other in the ladies' room earlier." Pre-Landon, I would have introduced her as one of my best friends. But it's hard to consider someone your BFF when you haven't spoken to her for 6 months, and she hasn't returned most of your texts. "Nice to meet you, Janie," Marcus says, shaking her hand with a much warmer expression. Meanwhile, Landon goes around the table introducing himself to Marcus's investors and handing out gold-lettered business cards. "In case you ever need some M&A or IPO advice," he says to Weston Long with a wink. "My team at Goldman just launched the Guru IPO, you know." Everyone is polite to him, but I can tell nobody's particularly impressed. These men must run into dozens of Landons daily. With their wealth, there's no avoiding all the ass-kissers and favor-seekers. Still, I feel a little dirty watching Landon's blatant efforts to integrate himself, and Janie looks uncomfortable too. Thankfully, the ickiness doesn't last long. Everyone was getting ready to leave anyway, and Landon's arrival merely accelerates the inevitable. Within minutes, everyone heads out, leaving me and Marcus with Janie and her boyfriend. "So," Landon says, smiling wide enough to swallow a boat, "how about the 4 of us grab a drink? There's a nice bar over at—" "Maybe another time," Marcus says as the waiter fetches our coats. He turns to my friend. "Janie, it was nice to meet you. I hope we see you again soon." And placing a hand on my lower back, he ushers me out of the restaurant and into the waiting car.
Chapter 31. Marcus. Once we're inside the car, Emma closes her eyes with a weary sigh, and I pull her to me, letting her head rest on my shoulder. "Tired?" I ask, stroking her soft curls. A flowery fragrance wafts toward me, something unfamiliar but pleasant, though it does give me a tickling sensation in my nostrils. "I'm exhausted." Emma's voice is muffled as she burrows deeper into my neck. "I haven't socialized this intensely since Kendall's 25th birthday party." 25th birthday party? For some reason, I keep forgetting that my kitten's almost a decade younger, with friends to match. I'm not exactly cradle-robbing here, but there is a definite difference between 35 and 26. At my age, marriage and family are the norm, even in career-minded New York City, while most of Emma's peers are too busy finding themselves to entertain such notions. No wonder it's so hard to get her to commit. She's used to boys who don't know what the fuck they want, not men who recognize a good thing when they see it. "Well, you did amazing regardless. They all loved you," I tell her, and it's the truth. I suspected Ashton and the others would like Emma once they got to know her, but it took less than an hour for her to charm their socks off. Even notoriously stiff Bob Johnson was smiling by the end, and before he left, he gave me a verbal commitment for an additional $150 million, about $100 million more than I hope to get from him at this stage. My kitten didn't just entertain him with small talk. She got him to increase his allocation to my fund. Really? She raises her head and blinks owlishly. I felt so clueless with all that finance talk around me. I thought for sure. A sneeze comes upon me so suddenly I barely have a chance to turn away. It's immediately followed by another, and I realize what that tickling sensation in my nose means. Did you spray on some perfume tonight? I ask nasally, grabbing a tissue from a box in the back and pressing it to my nose as I move away from Emma. My throat is itching now, too, and my eyes are beginning to water. Whatever my kitten used is potent stuff. She looks startled. Perfume? No, I can't. My cats go crazy if I use anything with fragrance. I don't even own perfume, and most of my products are unscented. Why, are you allergic? I sneeze again into the tissue. I must be, at least to certain perfumes. Are you sure you didn't use anything? Now that I'm thinking about it, it is the first time I've smelled anything on Emma but her natural, delicately sweet scent. I'm certain. Then her eyes go wide. Oh, but I did hug Janie in the restroom, and she was covered in perfume. Maybe some of it got on me? That must be it, I say, pressing the button to lower the window. The chilly night air blows in, clearing away the flowery smell and easing the itching in my nose and throat. Ugh, I'm so sorry. Emma scoots as far away from me as the car's width allows. Janie never used to wear perfume, claiming she was sensitive to the chemicals, but today it was like she'd bathed in it. It's okay. Most women use that stuff. I'm glad you don't. In fact, that was one of my wife criteria, one I'd forgotten to tell Victoria about. Emma smiles ruefully. I would if I could. My cats don't allow it. And now also you, I guess. I'm glad your cats and I are on the same page. She laughs at my dry response, and I spend the rest of the ride on the other side of the car. Thankfully, the traffic is light at this hour, and it doesn't take long to get home. Midway, I have to roll up the window to avoid freezing us both to death, and my nose is itching again by the time we roll up to my building. I'm going straight into the shower, Emma says when I sneeze again while helping her out of the car. Literally, the second we walk through the door. And I won't wear these clothes again until they've been washed. Good idea. I'll ask Joffrey to get your coat dry cleaned too. I have no idea if the perfume got on it as well, but I'm not about to risk it. Come to think of it, my clothes need to be decontaminated also, since Emma's flowery-smelling hair was all over my shoulder. I owe Emma's cats for teaching her not to use this stuff, I really do. All three of the fluffy beasts are waiting by the door when we walk in, and I see what Emma meant by, my cats go crazy. As soon as we get inside, all three noses go up, sniffing the air, and furry backs start to curve. Cotton Ball hisses, actually hisses, at us before zooming away, and Mr. Puffs joins them with a furious yowl. Queen Elizabeth is the sole outlier. She stays, though her eyes are wild and her back is in a full arch as she stares at us, as if unsure whether to attack or run for her life. I know, I'm sorry, Emma tells her, taking off her coat and hanging it in the closet. I'll be more careful, I promise. True to her word, she beelines for the master bedroom shower, and I text Joffrey the instruction on what to do with our coats when he comes in tomorrow morning. And, since Emma put her contaminated outerwear there before I could warn her, with all the contents of the downstairs closet as well. By the time I get upstairs, I'm naked, having left all my clothes in the laundry downstairs just in case. It's almost safe, boys, I tell Cotton Ball and Mr. Puffs as I walk by the library, where both cats have taken refuge on the bookshelves. The noxious odor is about to be contained. The cats look distrustful, and I can't blame them. That perfume really is an assault on one's senses. Entering the bedroom, I find Emma's dress in the laundry bin in my closet, and I take the entire bin downstairs, again, just to be on the safe side. Then I return and open the window to air out the bedroom. Queen Elizabeth creeps in behind me, nose in the air, and I let her be the canary in the coal mine. After a few long moments, she sits down and starts daintily licking her paw. Success. Perfume invasion contained. All right, now off you go, I tell the cat as I head to the bathroom where the shower is running. I have big plans for tonight. Queen Elizabeth continues cleaning herself. I stop and glare at her. Seriously, shoo. Last night we had the bedroom to ourselves, and I intend for that to continue. Unlike Emma's place, my penthouse is large enough for every cat to have his or her own room, which means there's zero reason for the beasties to be present when we're having sex. I'm totally anthropomorphizing here, but fucking Emma in front of her pets felt oddly like doing it in front of young children. The cat gives me a disdainful glare, then stands up and saunters away, looking as regal as the monarch whose name she shares. When she's over the threshold, I close the bedroom door and lock it for good measure, my heartbeat speeding up as my body tightens with anticipation. I really do have big plans tonight, and I want zero interference.
Chapter 32. Emma. I'm almost done rinsing the conditioner out of my hair when Marcus steps into the enormous shower stall with me, a small bottle in his hand. His eyes are fiercely narrowed, his jaw taut with unmistakable hunger. I gulp, my heartbeat spiking as I back up a step, moving out of the water spray coming at me from the 5 rotating shower heads. I'm still a little sore from that intense sex last evening, and I don't know if I'm up for anything kinky, especially in light of the questions raised by Ashton's blunder at dinner. Taking another step back, I sneak a glance at the bottle. Is that lube?
Yes.
Marcus's voice is low and rough, his intent unmistakable as he sets the bottle down on the ledge where all shampoos live, and comes after me. Gripping my hips, he pulls me against his aroused body and bends his head to kiss me. Wait. Ignoring the heat curling in my core, I wedge my hands between our bodies and turn my head away, causing his lips to land on my ear. I need to talk to you first. His chest muscles turn to stone under my palms.
What is it?
With a push, I twist out of his hold and back up a step. Emmeline. I suck in a steadying breath. Are you, or were you, seeing her? He looks neither surprised nor offended by the question.
No.
His tone is even, his gaze unflinching.
It's as I've told you. We only met that one time. We did speak on the phone a couple of times after that, before I decided to seriously pursue you, but that's all it ever was.
Then why
did Ashton mistake you for her?
At my nod, he says grimly,
Because I stupidly told him about her when we were on a break. It was after you sent me away, remember?
My chest constricts. When you broke down the door?
That's right.
His jaw is like granite.
I was pissed that I couldn't forget you, and I called her, hoping it would help me move on. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But during that conversation, we agreed to meet for dinner when she came to New York on a business trip. And later that day, Ashton and I met for a sparring session and went out for drinks afterward. The matchmaker I told you about is his aunt's friend. Ashton is the reason I hired her in the first place. So he asked whether she had come through for me, and I told him she'd introduced me to Emmeline Summers, who lives in Boston. So that's how Ashton knows about her. And before you ask, I canceled that date with Emmeline as soon as you and I got back together. However, I didn't have a chance to speak to Ashton about any of this again, which is why he got confused. In any case,
Marcus draws in a breath.
All Ashton's ever heard about Emmeline is her name and where she's from. You can ask him if you don't believe me.
The pressure around my rib cage eases more with every word he speaks. I do believe him. Maybe it's naive, but I trust Marcus not to lie to me, which is why I asked him about this rather than stewing, worrying, and covertly snooping around on my own. Okay.
Okay.
His thick eyebrows pull together.
What does that mean, okay?
It means I believe you. This probably merits a longer discussion, but without the specter of Emmeline throwing cold water on my libido, I'm acutely conscious of the fact that we're both naked in a steamy shower stall, and he's still partially aroused. and that he brought that bottle of lube with him for some reason. His frown doesn't abate.
Just like that?
He advances on me, powerful muscles bunched tight.
You believe me?
I swallow and back away, retreating instinctively in the face of all that intense male nakedness. Well, yes. The rapid beating of my pulse intensifies as my back presses against the glass wall of the stall. Not only am I seriously sore in all sorts of places, but the entire day I'm stumbling around like a zombie, yawning and chugging down coffee in a futile attempt to stay awake at work. Marcus clearly doesn't need much sleep or recovery time because after that kinky sexathon in the shower, he woke me up at 6 o'clock this morning to, what else, have even more sex. And then, because he didn't have an early morning meeting, he went for a 6-mile run. Billionaires must not be human. Or at least this one doesn't seem to be. Maybe he's secretly a cyborg from the future. Terminator, the sex robot edition. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. The good news is that by waking up at that ungodly hour, I got to work early and therefore can leave early. So I'll be able to pack up my things, grab my cats, and have Wilson drive us home for the night. Or at least it should be good news. Right now, I'm so tired I can barely think, much less picture myself doing all that packing and cat chasing and car riding. Between the energy expended at the investor dinner and the sexathon that followed, it's taking all my strength just to remain upright behind the cash register and ring up people's purchases. Partially because it's a lot of purchases, way more than usual. Christmas is coming up, and paper books make great gifts. In any case, maybe this was Marcus's evil plan, exhaust me with socializing and sex, so I would stay at his place another night. Just because he promised to stop pressuring me to move in doesn't mean he's forgotten the idea. By now, I know him. I know how his devious mind works. And it's entirely possible that at least a couple of the orgasms last night and this morning were given to me for the sole purpose of getting me not to go home. Well, he won't succeed. Tired or not, I'm going home anyway. Otherwise, I might as well make Mrs. Metz happy by ending my lease early, which I fully intend to do as soon as I find myself a reasonably priced apartment. I'm not moving in with Marcus. No matter how good things currently are between us, it's way too soon for that. Unfortunately, my grandparents don't think so. At lunchtime, Grandma calls me, asking if the move has gone as planned, and since I don't want to disappoint her and Gramps, I end up telling her that we're doing a trial run this week to see how my cats adjust. Thank you, Marcus, for that idea. This way, I'll be able to blame the cats when I tell my grandparents that we decided separate residences are the way to go for now. Which they totally are. Granted, all 3 of my cats love his place, and I'm beyond pampered there, with Joffrey making scrumptious dinners and plying me with green juices every morning. But I have to maintain my independence. This particular dinner with Marcus's investors went better than expected, but I'm still not the beautiful, polished socialite he was looking for. If he keeps bringing me to these events, there's a very high chance that I'll screw up and embarrass him somehow, and then he might decide that living together was a mistake, and I'll end up scrambling for a place to rent. Not that he'd throw me out on the street, but still. The flame between us burns hot right now, but there's no guarantee that this will last. It's not like he's in love with me. My chest tightens at the thought, but there's no time to dwell on it. The stream of customers keeps coming, and I keep ringing up their purchases. Finally, around 3, there's a lull, and I head to one of the armchairs in the back, hoping to close my eyes for a 5-minute micro nap. But just as I'm settling into a comfy chair, my phone rings. Yawning, I pull it out of my pocket and glance at the screen, expecting it to be Kendall calling to get an update on last night's dinner. But it's Janie, all bright and bubbly as I pick up. Hey, Emma, it was so good seeing you last night. I can't believe we haven't hung out in so long. Yeah. Having seen Landon in action last night, I can believe it, but I don't say it. Kendall, Janie, and I had been inseparable in college, and for a couple of years after graduation, and I don't want to lose a friend just because I don't like her boyfriend. Not that she's been much of a friend in the past few months, but maybe that'll change now that we've reconnected. Forcing myself to inject some enthusiasm into my voice, I say, "We should definitely grab lunch or dinner soon." "Yes, how about today? Landon and I can come to Brooklyn after work, unless— Are you living in Manhattan now, by any chance?" "No, but I will be in Tribeca for a bit. Wait, actually, tonight's not good." Not only am I too sleep-deprived for another late dinner, but an outing will interfere with my packing and cat-catching plans. I'm determined to sleep in my own bed tonight. "How about tomorrow, then? Like I said, we're flexible about the location. Brooklyn, Manhattan, whatever works for you." Well, that's a first. A few months before Janie started dating Landon, she got a job at a PR firm in Midtown and moved from Brooklyn to the Upper East Side. And right away, Brooklyn became like another country for her. Kendall, who also lives in the city, feels the same way. So I think it's a Manhattanite thing. Either way, Janie's sudden willingness to trudge to the boroughs is odd, to say the least. "Let me check with Marcus and get back to you," I say as the bell over the door rings, signifying another customer. "He said something about working late tomorrow, so that may be a good time for the three of us to— Oh, we can do it another day then. Whatever works best for you and Marcus. Landon is dying to get to know him better." Ah, so this is not about seeing me. "Yeah, I'll let you know which day works," I say, doing my best to conceal the hurt in my voice. For a minute there, I thought Janie genuinely wanted to resume our friendship. "Now, if you don't mind, I have to run. It's a busy day here at the bookstore." "Of course, I'll be waiting. Bye for now." And as I head back to the register, sipping on a sugar-laden coffee to wash away the bitter taste in my mouth, I realize that this is going to be another downside of dating a billionaire. My mother isn't the only one who believes in using people, and I'm now someone to be used. "Just tell her Marcus is too busy to hang out with her asshole of a boyfriend," Kendall says when I relay the conversation after bringing her up to speed on last night's dinner and everything that followed. Minus the sex, of course. There's no way I'm telling her I had anal. My face flames like the surface of the sun when I so much as think about how dirty hot the whole thing had been. "So, you think my theory is right?" I ask, pulling my mind out of the gutter to glance out the window at the bumper-to-bumper traffic. I left work early, as planned, but it's snowing again, and even Wilson's driving skills can't help us get through the gridlock any faster. If we keep creeping along at 2 miles an hour, I might end up staying at Marcus's place another night. The theory that Landon pressured Janie to stop being friends with us because we don't fit the image he wants her to project? It's possible, Kendall says thoughtfully. He does seem like the type to do that. "No, I said that I don't fit the image," I correct. "You do. And didn't you say Janie had invited you out a few times in recent months?" "Well, yes, but it was always during the weeknights, and you know my boss often requires me to work late. And on the weekends, when I actually was free, she was too busy with Landon." "But she still invited you, because you dress nicely and can hold your own at a fancy cocktail party. I, on the other hand, hadn't heard from her at all. And you should have seen how much she's changed, Kendall. It's like she went on one of those makeover shows." "Yeah, that's kind of crazy," Kendall agrees. "I mean, people change and all, but that does seem pretty extreme. Do you think it's because of Landon?" I'm almost sure of it. I watch fat snowflakes land on the cars next to us. "Do you think—" I stop, unsure if I should go there. "What? Come on, Em, spill it." I take a breath. "Do you think Marcus will expect it of me too? I mean, if we stay together long term, do you think he'll want me to become like Janie, all designer clothes and flat-ironed hair and glossy lips?" "So what if he does?" Kendall's tone is distinctly lacking in sympathy. "There's nothing wrong with putting some effort into your appearance. How did you feel in your cat's butt dress and cheap boots last night?" "Not great," I admit. I mean, once I got there, I kind of forgot about it because everyone was nice to me, but you worried yourself sick about it beforehand. And why? Why not dress nicely and feel good in what you're wearing?" I frown. "Well, for one thing, I can't afford— Emma, you're dating a billionaire. Let the guy buy you a freaking dress and a pair of decent shoes so you'll feel comfortable among his kind of crowd. Or if that's too much for your independent sensibilities, let me get you some samples from my boss's collection. Aren't they all size 00? I ask Riley. Last I checked, those clothes might not even fit my cats. Kendall lets out a frustrated breath. I have her there, and she knows it. Fine, cling to your principles, but I'm telling you, Ems, change is not always a bad thing. Maybe Janie went overboard trying to please her boyfriend, but if she feels good in her new skin, be happy for her. There's nothing wrong with wanting to project a specific image. Unless, of course, by doing so, you neglect your friends. It's my turn to let out a frustrated sigh. I know that, I'm just scared. I don't say it, but the word rings out loud and clear in my mind, as if shoved to the front by my subconscious. And I am scared. No, that's wrong. I'm terrified. My grandmother and Kendall were both right when they said I don't like change, that I'm not a risk taker. Only it's more than that. Change, upheaval of any kind, reminds me of the early years of my childhood, when my mother and I would move every few weeks, going from one boyfriend's apartment to another. Some of those moves were voluntary on my mother's part, others not so much. In the case of the latter, we'd often have to leave our things behind and start over. I'd have to go to a new school, adjust to a new neighborhood, get new clothes, make new friends. Or, after a while, not even bother to do the latter. Why try to get close to anyone when in a few months I'd have to do it all over again? Why risk putting myself out there when the payoff was so small? It wasn't until my grandparents took me in that I gained stability in my life, and I treasure it to this day. Change and the risk that comes with it are deeply unsettling for me. I need the comfort of the familiar, be it my worn-out clothes or my job, or even the way people perceive me, as a bookish, slightly frumpy girl who, as Kendall pointed out last month, was turning into a stereotypical cat lady, a woman who can never be what a man like Marcus needs. Look, Ems, Kendall says, and I again hear honking in the background. I have to go now, but you should really think about your future and what you want. I know you still have doubts about Marcus's intentions, but from where I'm sitting, the main obstacle in your relationship is you. If you want this to work, you can't expect him to do all the heavy lifting. Spending time with your grandparents, welcoming your pets into his place, taking you to meet important to him people. He's making room in his life for you and all your baggage. It's up to you to do the same for him. She hangs up and I sit in silence, staring out at the traffic. She's right. I know she's right. But that doesn't make it any easier to process. True, I've already compromised by agreeing to let Marcus pay for stuff when he invites me out, by using his driver and flying on his plane and eating meals prepared by his chef. I let him stay at my grandparents' house for the entire Thanksgiving weekend, and I've now spent 2 nights in a row at his place. On the surface, I've done nothing but give in. But the reality of the matter is I haven't compromised on anything truly important. Not the way he has. He's a neat freak who never wanted pets, yet he's gone out of his way to embrace my fur babies. His dream partner is a glossy socialite, yet he hasn't batted an eye at bringing me to an investor dinner wearing my cheap clothes and scuffed boots. He has done all the heavy lifting in this relationship, and as strong and determined as he is, I can't expect him to keep doing that. I have to carry my fair share of the burden. To make this work, I have to take a risk and embrace change.
Chapter 35. Marcus. All morning long, I brainstorm ways to get Emma to stay at my place another night. The deal we made means I can't keep asking her, so I have to resort to more underhanded methods. Get Wilson to call in sick so he can't take her and the cats home? No, I'd just have to call a taxi, and we'd end up arguing about who gets to pay. Incentivize the cats to run from Emma by bringing in a few live mice for them to chase? No, too cruel to the poor mice. Pounce on Emma as soon as she gets home and keep her in my bed all evening? Yes. That's a more promising idea. And if all else fails, I'll go with her and spend the night on her lumpy bed. Of course, that's just a short-term solution. I need something more permanent, and I need it soon. At lunch, I call the realtor who visited Emma's landlady and ask her to reach out to her again. Tell Metz you have a buyer ready, I instruct, and after I hang up, I call Weston Long. It's Corelli, I say when the real estate mogul picks up. I need a favor. I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but I see no other option. The baying beast inside me needs Emma in his cave. The rest of my day is insanely busy. After the jobs report comes out, market volatility goes through the roof, and I spend all afternoon with my PMs deciding which investments to unload and which ones to double down on. As a result, I don't leave the office until 7, a full hour later than planned, and when I finally get home, I learn that my plans to pounce on Emma have hit a major obstacle. She's asleep. She was exhausted when she arrived a half hour ago, Joffrey informs me as I'm taking off my coat. Said she was too tired to eat and was going to take a nap. A spike of guilt pierces my chest. I must have completely exhausted her last night. Did she say anything about packing and going home? No, Mr. Corelli. She went straight up to the bedroom and hasn't come down since. He pauses, then asks carefully, Shall I warm up dinner for you? Or would you like to wait for Ms. Walsh? Give me a few minutes and I'll let you know. I head upstairs, pausing only to pet Cotton Ball, who's taken to greeting me every evening by the door. Of course, a few seconds of head-scratching is insufficient for the needy feline, so when he meows loudly, looking up at me with those big green eyes, I bend down and pick him up, taking him with me so I can stroke him as I walk. Entering the bedroom with the purring Cotton Ball in my arms, I find Emma tucked under the blanket, with the 2 other cats curled up next to her on my pillow. A month ago, I would have immediately stripped the sheets and had Joffrey boil my pillowcase with bleach. But as I take in the scene in front of me, cat germs are the last thing on my mind. If I hadn't already realized that I love her, I would have known it in this instant. Lust and tenderness, possessiveness and adoration, all of it commingles in my chest. Emma in repose is a sight that melts my heart and turns my cock rock hard. She's lying on her side, one pale arm draped over her pillow, and her curls like flame spirals around her softly pretty face. With her eyes closed, her thick lashes are like auburn half-moons on her freckled cheeks, and her rosebud lips are slightly parted, making me want to kneel in front of her and kiss them, then roll her onto her back and fuck her all night long. Even with my kitten looking like a Botticelli angel, the savage inside me is alive and well. Heart thudding heavily, I walk over and stop at the edge of the bed, staring down at her. Emma's breathing is completely even. She's deep in the throes of sleep. Both cats raise their heads at my approach, then lay them back down, unimpressed. I don't know how long I stand there watching her, but eventually I quietly back away and go back downstairs. With Cotton Ball sitting on my lap, I eat the dinner Joffrey prepared, then go into my home office to do more work. The cat follows me there, napping on my desk while I go through research reports. I consider shooing him away, but he's not bothering me, and having him here is a little bit like having a part of Emma with me. When I'm done, I do a few dozen laps in my pool, shower, and head into the bedroom to join my kitten, whose evening nap is transitioning into nightly sleep. Quietly, I approach the bed and turn on the bedside lamp. Mr. Puffs and Queen Elizabeth are still lying on my pillow, pointedly ignoring me. Since chasing them away might wake Emma, I grab another pillow from my closet and carefully move the pillow with the cats aside. Then I flick off the lamp and stretch out beside Emma, pulling her soft, warm body into my embrace. She stirs at my touch, mumbling, "Marcus?" "Yeah, it's me. Sleep, my sweet." My cock is painfully hard, but I want her to rest and recover. I'm used to the nonstop pace of my life, with business dinners that run late into the night, followed by early morning exercise or meetings. But she's new to this, and the last thing I want is to undermine her health by exhausting her with my sexual demands on top of everything else. She snuggles closer, yawning against my shoulder. "I didn't go home," she says sleepily. "I was going to, but I didn't." I suppress a smile. I noticed. "And I don't want to." She sounds slightly more awake. My heart skips a beat, then starts thumping. "You don't have to." Is she saying what I think she's saying? Pulling back, I turn on the lamp and meet her gaze. "Kitten, you don't have to go anywhere. I want you here always. You know that." She blinks a few times, the sleep rapidly clearing from her eyes. "Marcus, She sits up, holding the blanket to her chest. "I think I want to try this. That is, if you're sure." I sit up too, my heartbeat accelerating further. I am, very sure. So sure, I just agreed to pay Weston Long $3 million in exchange for one of his companies purchasing her landlady's townhouse. Is that what's prompting this? Did the woman already speak to Emma about ending her lease early? But no, it's way too soon. Long said he'd need a couple of days to make an offer. Okay then. It's a trial run, officially. Yes, a trial run, I say thickly, and unable to resist, I shoo the cats off the bed and pull her to me. By the next morning, I still don't know what prompted my kitten to change her mind, but I don't question my good fortune. Instead, I move swiftly to consolidate my victory. As we sit down to eat breakfast, I ask Emma for the keys to her studio so Joffrey can send the movers there today. They'll only take the cat maze, your clothes, and some books, I tell her when she looks panicked. It'll be easy to bring it all back if this trial run doesn't work out. She hesitates, then nods. All right, I suppose we can do that. It takes everything I have not to let my fierce triumph show. Good, it's settled then. I'll ask Joffrey to make room in my closet for your things. Not that she has a lot. Hopefully, once we're married, she'll let me buy her more. And we will be married soon. Now that Emma is living with me, it'll be that much easier to make her fall in love with me, turning this trial run into forever. Finishing her poached eggs, Emma pours herself a glass of green juice and downs it in a few gulps. She seems to really like it, so I make a mental note to have Joffrey always prepare it for her at breakfast. I'll also ask him to pack a lunch for her every day. I have no idea what she eats at work, but I'm sure it's not nearly as good as the gourmet sandwiches my butler makes for me. Oh, almost forgot, Emma says, patting her lips with a napkin. Janie called me yesterday. She wants us to meet up with her in Landon this week. Do you think you might be too busy? I raise my eyebrows at the strangely worded question. Do you want me to be too busy? I do have a ton of work, and I'm not a fan of the pushy investment banker, but for Emma, I'm willing to tolerate the guy for one night. Busy or not, I want to get to know her friends. Emma's cheeks turn pink. Well, kind of. I mean, I want to see Janie, but I think her boyfriend just wants to suck up to you. That was obvious to everyone last night. Right, so? She looks taken aback. So that doesn't bother you? Why would it? I pick up my fork. The whole point of having power and wealth is to be in the position where people want to suck up to you. In the business world, it's called networking, and it's an essential skill for career advancement. Emma pushes her plate aside. But that's using people. It's human nature, kitten. And not just human. I know where her views are coming from, so I choose my words carefully. Observe any social animals and you'll see it. The weak curry favor from the strong. The unskilled learn from the skilled. Are they using them? Sure. But is it wrong? I doubt it. Emma regards me with a frown. I don't understand. Are you saying it's okay if a woman is with you for your money? Or if someone only wants to be your friend to network with your billionaire boyfriend? Of course not. I push my own plate aside and cover her hand with mine. There's a world of difference between deceiving and emotionally manipulating someone, and knowing that a person may be of help to you. I would never be with a woman who only wants me for the luxuries I can provide. Not if I'm looking for a genuine emotional connection with her. But I'm more than happy to provide those luxuries for the woman I love and who loves me back. And it's totally fine if she enjoys that aspect of our relationship. In fact, I'd want her to. Emma's color heightens, and she looks away, her voice strained as she says, I see. Kitten, look at me. I wait until she meets my gaze before continuing. If you don't like your friend's boyfriend, I can be as busy as you need me to be. We don't have to spend time with anyone you dislike. But I want you to know that if your friends or family do need a favor at some point, I'm here for them, just as I'm here for you. I know you don't want my money or my connections, but you've got them. I pause, then add gently, everything I have is now yours.
Chapter 36. Emma. By the time I get home from work that day, the movers have already brought all of my things, and Joffrey has unpacked them. My clothes, all washed, ironed, and de-haired, are hanging in Marcus's closet. My books, including the first editions he gifted me, are arranged on the bookshelves in the library, and my cat Maze is standing next to the glass wall of the pool room, strategically hidden behind the lush green plants that shield it from view. My cats, never ones to miss an opportunity to climb, are already all over the maze, and the tall plants surrounding it. In fact, Queen Elizabeth is sitting on top of one especially sturdy fiddle-leaf fig, as if it were an oak tree. Hopefully, she won't try to eat the leaves. My pets don't usually attack plants, but there's always a first time. Marcus is still at work. He texted me that a meeting is running late, so I walk around the apartment, taking in my new residence. A part of me still can't believe this is happening, that we've come so far so soon. Last Wednesday, exactly a week ago, I'd been on my way to Florida, my heart in pieces, and now I'm in Marcus's penthouse, having just agreed to live here on a trial basis. If that's not embracing change, I don't know what is. There are still 1,000,001 things that could go wrong, 100 ways we could turn out to be incompatible. But the flame of hope he lit in my heart that night in Florida is growing stronger, brighter. Maybe, against all odds, this will work out. Maybe someday he'll even return my love. The woman I love. He said it so casually yesterday, as if it's not my wildest dream to be that woman. Not because of the luxuries he's so eager to provide, but because of him. The more I get to know my Wallstreet titan, the tighter his grip is on my heart. He spoke to my grandparents this morning. I know because they called me during lunch. He wanted to thank my grandmother for a wonderful weekend and to see how my grandfather was doing with the trading software Marcus had installed for him. He also offered my grandparents free use of his plane, so they can visit us in New York anytime they want, and he promised to bring me to Florida to see them soon. That he took the time out of his busy day is impressive enough, but what other man would have even thought of calling my family, or offered to do favors for my friends? Marcus Corelli is 1 in a billion, and it's not because of the billions he's made. If there was any doubt in my mind that I did the right thing by agreeing to this trial run, it's dissipating quickly. I want to do whatever it takes to make this work. I want to be the kind of woman Marcus could love.
Chapter 37. Marcus. When I get home from work, the dining table is set with candles and a bottle of champagne is chilling in ice. I asked Joffrey to do this, Emma says, coming down the stairs toward me. I hope you don't mind. Since it's our first official day of living together, I wanted tonight's dinner to be extra special. Of course I don't mind. In fact, my chest fills with a warm, soft glow, the tiredness from the long workday fading as she comes up to me, rises on tiptoes, and plants the sweetest, most sensual kiss onto my lips. My cock hardens immediately, but I resist the urge to drag her off to bed. It's nearly 8, and if my kitten waited for me, she must be as starved as I am. Besides, I want to have this extra special dinner with her, to see her dimpled smile as we talk about our day. When we sit down, Joffrey appears out of the kitchen, and makes a production out of uncorking the champagne and pouring us each a glass. "Thank you. You're amazing," she tells him, her gray eyes sparkling and her dimples out in full force, and I watch in amusement as my always composed butler flushes with pleasure before mumbling his thanks and backing away. Like my investors, he can't help responding to Emma's unconscious charm, to that genuine seductive warmth that's lured me to her from the start. "To you, kitten," I say, lifting my glass when he disappears back into the kitchen. "And to a successful trial run." "Yes, to a successful trial run," Emma says, clinking her glass against mine. "And to new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echo, and take a sip of the perfectly crisp, fizzy drink. A minute later, Joffrey brings out red wine braised short ribs, and we eagerly dive in. At first, we're too busy eating to talk about anything except how good the food is, but after a few minutes, the first fullness signals reach my brain, and I ask Emma if she decided whether she wants to see her friend and her banker boyfriend. It'll be tough to find the time with my schedule jam-packed until the weekend, but for Emma, I'll clear one evening. "Actually, I told Janie this week is no good," Emma says. "With the move and everything, it's just too crazy. Plus, I haven't seen Kindle in a while, and I'm hoping we can do something over the weekend with her. But maybe we'll see Janie next week, if that's okay with you. Wednesday, perhaps?" "That works. As long as it's not right before the Alpha Zone conference, I'm good," I say, and pull out my phone to make a note in my calendar. When I put the device away, Emma asks me about the conference and what Alpha Zone means, and I explained that alpha is the excess investment return compared to a benchmark, the true measure of a fund's performance. Nowadays, it's cheap and easy to invest in something like an S&P 500 index fund and get the same returns as the market, I tell her. The challenge is consistently outperforming, and that's where investing acumen comes in. The Alpha Zone is an association of all of us who hunt for alpha, whether in the traditional sense of outperforming a given benchmark or simply getting the best possible returns. Most of the members are hedge funders like myself, but there are also venture capitalists, currency traders, private equity guys, traditional asset managers, real estate investors, and anyone else who's in some way in the alpha generation business and is successful at it. "So what is the conference for?" Emma asks. "Just to rub shoulders with other big-shot alpha hunters?" I flash her a grin. "Pretty much. We also pitch an investment idea for the coming year, and at the following year's event, we see whose idea performed the best." "Ah, I see. So your reputation is on the line." "Exactly." I ask about her day next, and Emma tells me about a new client who pinged her for developmental edits. Those are apparently the hardest, and how the holidays are bringing more customers to the bookstore. Then she asks about the meeting that delayed me tonight, and I explain about the IPO we're investing in this week. The meeting was with the company's CFO, and it ran late because he's based on the West Coast. Since she seems interested, I go over the merits of the investment, and she listens attentively, occasionally interrupting with astute questions. Though my kitten has no finance background, she appears to have an intuitive grasp of the risk-reward calculation that goes into investing decisions, as well as a knack for cutting through the fluff and succinctly summarizing the issues at hand. "You know, you would have made a great equity research analyst," I tell her as Joffrey brings out our dessert, a fruit salad drizzled with chocolate syrup. "Those are the guys who publish many of the reports I read. With your way with words, you'd have quite a following, especially if your stock recommendations were more right than wrong." She grins, spearing a plump strawberry. "Are they often wrong?" "On average, about 50% of the time." "Really? Then why does anyone read those reports?" "For the information." I bite into a juicy piece of pear. These analysts do quite a bit of research on the companies they cover, and their reports often give a good overview of the business model, the competitive landscape, and such. That's their real value add, not their opinion on whether the stock is a buy or sell. Professional investors like myself make those decisions on their own. "Ah, I see. So are all published stock recommendations useless?" I smile at her. "Pretty much. Don't tell your grandfather, though. I gave him access to our equity research database today, and he's in seventh heaven. Emma laughs, shaking her head, and forks a chocolate-drizzled raspberry into her mouth. Right away, her eyes close, and a blissful expression appears on her face. She moans through a mouthful. This is so good. This is delicious, but I think I'm full, she murmurs, regarding me from underneath her lashes, which, I notice, are longer and darker than usual, as if she'd put on some makeup. How about you? With her teasing me like this, I'm hard enough to break stone, but that's not what she's asking. I couldn't eat another bite, I growl, standing up. So if you're full, how about we go upstairs? Yes, great idea. Beaming, she jumps to her feet and hurries to the staircase, and I follow her, suddenly as ravenous as a starved wolf.
Chapter 38. Emma. Over the next 2 days, Marcus and I find a morning routine that works for us. Even without any kind of early meetings, he wakes up at the crack of dawn, and since we've both learned that I'm not a cyborg who can subsist on sex in place of shut-eye, he lets me snooze while he gets in either a run or a workout in his home gym. By the time he's done, I'm up, and we have a quick breakfast together before rushing off to our respective workplaces. Well, he rushes off because Wilson drops him off first and then returns for me, which gives me time to leisurely get ready and even work on some editing. I continue said editing during my cushy commute in Wilson's car, with the result that I get quite a bit accomplished by the time I get to my full-time job. On Thursday, Marcus works late again, so I use the time to proofread my new client's novella, and then, because I still somehow have energy, I open my super-secret project file to write a few paragraphs. It's slow going, so I set it aside to play with my cats, but as I'm petting Cotton Ball, the scene suddenly unfolds in my mind. It's so exciting I get completely absorbed in writing it, to the point that when Marcus arrives an hour later, I'm startled to realize it's almost 9 p.m., and I still haven't eaten. We have another delicious dinner together, followed by a prolonged lovemaking session, and when I wake up on Friday morning, I feel so good about life I don't even get upset that Puffs broke another priceless vase overnight, especially since Marcus doesn't seem to care. When I get to work, I find the bookstore again mobbed by customers, but luckily my boss is there to help. By noon, the flow of book shoppers eases a little, so I ask him to cover for me while I take a longer lunch break. Then I quickly wolf down the pear and gorgonzola sandwich Joffrey so considerately packed for me and step out to run my errands. My first stop is a clothing boutique a few blocks from my work. I've walked by it a dozen times in the past, but have never actually gone in. It's got that organic cotton made in the USA vibe, and I figured all the hipster stylish clothes there are bound to be out of my budget. Sure enough, the very first item I pick up, a plain but well-made t-shirt, is $49. The jeans that I pick up next, nearly $200. Dispirited, I'm about to walk out and try my luck elsewhere when I spot a discreet 50% off sign in the back. Now we're talking. The sale rack isn't huge, but every item of clothing on it is about 10 times better than anything I have in my closet. Browsing through it, I find a casual long-sleeved dress, a little blue cocktail dress, 3 cute tops, and a pair of jeans in my size. There's also a small shoe section in the back, where I see taupe-colored ankle booties that go with absolutely everything, and a pair of nude pumps that would dress up any outfit, and would look beautiful with the blue dress. When I try on my finds, everything fits but the jeans. They're too long. But I decide to get them anyway, as they do amazing things to my butt. I'll just have to get them hemmed. The shoes are what really makes the outfits, though, so even though they're not on sale, I take both the booties and the pumps to the register, determined not to give in to the part of me that's freaking out about the expense. My editing business has been picking up, to the point that I'm booked out several months in advance and have all those partial deposits in my bank account, which means that I can afford this splurge, even if it feels otherwise. It's not until the cashier rings up my purchases and I see the 4-figure total on the register screen that my resolve wavers. The last time I spent anywhere near this amount on clothes was, well, maybe never. I don't do shopping sprees. I grab one item on clearance here, another there. My current wardrobe, such as it is, has been assembled piecemeal over the years. And as I mentally do that math, I'm stunned to realize that some of my things date back to when I started high school. God, no wonder Kendall's been on my case. My look might be more than a decade out of date. My resolve firming, I hand my credit card to the cashier. I might not be able to bring myself to let Marcus purchase clothes for me, but that's no reason to embarrass him in front of his friends and acquaintances. Everyone might have been nice to me at that investor dinner, but I'm sure they wondered why a billionaire's girlfriend was wearing the modern-day equivalent of rags. Marcus didn't look embarrassed, but I'm sure he would have preferred that I wear a nicer outfit. And now I can. The blue dress and pumps might not be by some high-end designer, but they're good quality and won't look out of place at any business dinner. Shopping bags in hand, I head over to my second stop, a hair salon I found this morning. Located just 5 blocks from my work, it's small and unassuming, with a discreet sign above the door and only 2 hair-cutting stations inside. It does, however, have rave reviews on Yelp, with people claiming it's both dirt cheap and crazy good. They don't take appointments, only walk-ins, so I sign in and wait. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting in front of a mirror with a sharply stylish Asian man examining my unkempt curls. "Gorgeous color, but a lot of split ends," he says, lifting one strand to peer at it through purple-rimmed glasses. "A lot of frizz, too. What products do you use?" I tell him, and he winces as if I've just dealt him a physical blow. "No wonder your hair is so dry. You're killing it with all those harsh sulfates. I'll teach you how to care for it properly. First, though, let's see if we can give it some shape. Do you have any preference as to length?" My pulse jumps. The change-resistant cat lady inside me is freaking out at the idea of getting anything more than my usual basic trim, but I'm determined not to listen to her. "It's up to you," I say, my voice mostly steady. "I want whatever will look the best and be the easiest to care for." "Got it. I'll do a dry cut so we can see how each curl behaves." And before I can panic at the excited gleam in his eyes, he picks up the scissors and goes to work. 15 minutes later, there's enough red hair on the floor to make a carpet, but somehow I still have quite a bit of length. And for the first time in my life, my hair seems to curl around my face in a purposeful, if not quite tame, manner. "I'm going to do a deep conditioning treatment next," the hairdresser announces, and though I wasn't counting on this additional expense, I give in without a whimper. 40 minutes later, I walk out with my curls so soft, silky, and bouncy that I consider signing up for a shampoo commercial. They need natural redheads, don't they? On my phone is a list of recommended products, including, at my request, one brand that makes unscented shampoos and conditioners for curly hair, along with gels, creams, deep conditioners, and other apparent necessities for hair like mine. I may never pull off a Janie-like transformation, but there's no reason I can't look my best. Stopping at an intersection, I pull out my phone to send a selfie to Kendall, but before I can snap a picture, my screen lights up with an incoming call. "Hi, Mrs. Metz," I say, picking up, and then I listen to her telling me apologetically that she just got an amazing offer on the townhouse and would love it if I expedited my plans to find a new place. "I'm so sorry, dear, but the buyer really wants to close on it before the holidays. Of course, if you need more time, I can see if they'd be willing to wait, but—" "Oh, no, it's fine, Mrs. Metz. I was actually going to call you next week to tell you the good news." I take a breath. "It's official. Marcus and I are moving in together." She squeals like a young girl, and I grin despite the tightness in my chest. Maybe it's the new clothes and the great haircut, or just the buildup of feel-good hormones from all the orgasms this week. But the panic that first gripped me at the thought of giving up my place is now only a mild anxiety. I like living with Marcus, love it, in fact. and it's not hard for me to imagine this week's trial run extending into a more permanent arrangement, partially because Marcus acts like that's already a given, right down to inviting my grandparents to stay at our place when they visit us in New York. My grandmother was beyond gleeful when she told me about that part of their chat the other day. For someone whose career is all about analyzing risk and reward, my billionaire seems to possess zero caution. Mrs. Metz hangs up after I promise to have my stuff out of the apartment within 2 weeks, and I consider what to do next. I could accelerate my, admittedly sluggish so far, search for an apartment, just in case, but unless I luck into a convenient sublet, I'll have to sign a 12-month lease. A total waste if things continue as they are. Another alternative is to rent a storage unit and put all of my furniture in there. It'll be cheaper than getting a lease, and if at least a few of the pieces survive the move, I won't be starting from scratch in case I do have to get an apartment later. Or, and this is the option that both excites and scares me the most, I can throw my own caution to the wind and get rid of my old furniture, trusting that Marcus and I will make it work. Chapter 39. Emma. I'm still pondering the dilemma the next morning when Marcus and I meet Kendall for brunch in the West Village, at a popular, very pricey place Marcus chose, which means I'm going to have to let him pay. I thought about arguing for a cheaper alternative since he already paid for one dinner out this week, but my heart wasn't in it, and I let it slide. Besides, Kendall just about had a stroke when she heard that Marcus got us a Sunday brunch reservation at the place. Apparently, it's a celebrity hotspot, and for non-billionaire mortals, there's an 18-month wait for even the least popular weekday time slot. As we approach the restaurant, a man jumps out in front of us, fancy camera in hand, and snaps a picture, then scurries away before either of us can blink.
"Hold on," Marcus says, pulling out his phone. "I'll get my PR team on it. They'll squash it."
Was that a paparazzi? I ask incredulously.
"Looked like it,"
Marcus says, glancing up from his screen.
"They tend to hang around this place. But don't worry, my team will keep us out of the gossip rags. They're mostly after actual celebrities anyway."
Right, okay. A paparazzi for real? How is this my life? Before I can ask Marcus how exactly his PR team does their magic, his phone pings, and he turns his attention back to the screen.
"Ashton just texted to invite us out for lunch," he says, looking up. "Do you mind if he joins us here?"
Of course I don't mind, and I'm sure Kendall won't either. My bestie's always game to meet good-looking men. Do you think he'll get here in time? Marcus grins down at me.
"He lives a block away, so I assume so."
Okay, then. I give my nicely styled hair a shake as he opens the restaurant door for me. I can't wait to see what Kendall says about my new haircut and clothes. In a typical male fashion, Marcus didn't notice anything about my hair when I came home yesterday, only commenting at dinner that I look very pretty, though he did compliment my new outfit this morning. And hey, at least he noticed that I looked pretty, even if he didn't realize why. We're a few minutes early, but Kendall is already waiting for us at the table in the back, shamelessly gawking at the other patrons. I look around as well, and to my surprise, recognize a few people. The two women in the corner are popular reality TV stars. The guy by the counter is a big-name actor, and if I'm not mistaken, the pretty blonde man next to a beefy middle-aged guy is a famous male model. A couple of other faces are familiar as well, but I can't place them. Either way, almost everyone here looks like they've stepped out of the pages of Vogue and GQ, the waitstaff included. The restaurant must hire them based on their style and looks. The old me would have cringed, feeling horribly out of place. But not this new Emma with the hipster cool dress and booties combo and nice hair. I'm still nowhere near as glossy as most of the women here, but as our gorgeous blonde hostess leads us through the restaurant after taking our coats, I hold my head up high, like I'm exactly where I belong. And with Marcus at my side, the bluff totally works. Several women, and the male model, eye me enviously, no doubt wondering who I am and how I snagged the tall, handsome billionaire whose palm is resting possessively on my lower back, and who's glaring at every man who dares glance my way. Ems! Kendall jumps to her feet as we approach the table, her hazel eyes widening as she takes in my appearance. Wow, look at your dress and your hair. What did you do and when? Now that's 2 X chromosomes for you. Got a haircut at a new place yesterday and did a little shopping, I say, beaming. You like? I love it. She hugs me, then turns to Marcus, who's watching us in bemusement. Doesn't she look absolutely stunning? His gaze travels over me, lingering on my lips.
Yes, always.
I blush. I can't help it. His voice has that husky note in it that makes it all deep and rumbly, and I know if we weren't in public right now, he'd be pulling me to him for a kiss that would inevitably lead to more. Also, the carnal gleam in his eyes is not restaurant appropriate. At all. Kendall must think so too, because she clears her throat and sticks out her hand at Marcus. Kendall Bryce, she says a shade too brightly. I don't think we've ever formally introduced ourselves. Marcus tears his eyes away from me and shakes her hand.
Marcus Corelli.
His tone is wry. He must have realized he was eyeing me like I'm what's on the menu.
It's nice to formally meet you, Kendall.
Marcus's friend, Ashton, is joining us for lunch. I tell her as we all take our seats, and the waiter brings a pitcher of water for the table. I told Marcus you wouldn't mind. Of course not. The more the merrier. She waits until Marcus looks down at the menu, and as soon as he does, she pantomimes swooning. I smother a laugh before stealing a glance at my companion. Yep, definitely swoon-worthy. Even among all the glitterati, he stands out as the most attractive man in the place, his strong features and powerful build drawing the eye of many women here, and quite a few men. And who can blame them? Even in his casual weekend outfit of dark jeans and a light blue button-up shirt, Marcus looks like $1 million. Or rather, $1 billion. Or is it several billion? I have no idea what his net worth actually is. So, Marcus, Kendall says when he looks up from the menu. Emma told me the two of you are doing a trial run of living together. How is that going so far? Are you surviving the feline invasion? His white teeth flash in a grin.
For the most part. I did wake up the other morning with a furry butt on my face, but Emma assured me that the cats clean themselves thoroughly, and that Mr. Puffs didn't sneak into the bedroom and try to smother me on purpose.
Oh, no, Kendall laughs. I'd be careful if I were you. The things I've heard about that cat.
All true,
Marcus assures her.
He may indeed be of demonic origin. Luckily, his siblings are quite harmless, and I largely get along with them.
He's being modest, I say, laying a hand on his sleeve. Cotton Ball has fallen head over heels in love with him. He follows Marcus around like a puppy. Before Kendall can reply, the waiter comes over to take our drink orders. Just the water on the table for me and a hibiscus iced tea for Kendall and Marcus. And by the time he leaves, Ashton comes up to our table, looking movie star handsome in another casually cool combo of jeans and a light-colored cashmere sweater.
Great call on the place,
he says to Marcus as he takes a seat next to Kendall.
I've been meaning to try it, but you beat me to it.
With a megawatt smile, he turns to my friend.
Ashton Vancroft,
he says, his smooth, deep voice dropping another octave as he extends his hand.
And you are.
To my surprise, instead of looking dazzled, my friend is outright glaring at him. Kendall Bryce, she says through gritted teeth, ignoring the proffered hand. When he lowers it, she flips her sleek dark hair over her shoulder and pointedly angles her chair so she's facing partially away from him. I gape at her in disbelief. I've never seen Kendall be so rude to anyone, not even that time in college when a drunk guy kept hitting on her throughout the entire party. What's even stranger is that instead of taking offense, Ashton looks entertained, his smile widening to a wicked grin as he leans back in his chair and crosses his ankle over his knee in the ultimate man-at-ease pose.
So,
he drawls, as if Kendall isn't a block of ice at his side.
What's good here?
Looking just as puzzled as I feel, Marcus says wryly,
Everything, I assume.
Then he cocks an eyebrow.
Do you two know each other?
No, Kendall snaps before Ashton can get a word out. Her perfect features are arranged into the closest thing to a scowl I've ever seen on her face. With a jerky motion, she flags down our waiter, and when he hurries over, she orders a pitcher of sangria.
Are you going to share that?
Ashton asks, glancing at her rigid profile. His eyes are gleaming with the same wicked amusement.
Or are you planning to drink the whole thing by yourself?
I clear my throat. So, Ashton, how is your business going? I figure it's best to step in before Kendall can deck him, because she looks like she really, really wants to. Any luck slowing down that revenue growth?
Afraid not.
He grimaces, shifting his focus away from my fuming friend.
It's like a snowball rolling down a mountain. Just keeps gathering momentum.
His dazzling grin returning, he looks from me to Marcus.
How about you two lovebirds? How's everything? Is the wedding date already set?
I burst out laughing. Oh, yes, it's tomorrow night at Disney World, 6 o'clock. Be there or meet Mickey's wrath. I expect Marcus to join in the fun, but when I glance over at him, there's zero amusement on his face. Instead, he's looking at Ashton like he'd like to kill him. Slowly, after a few hours of torture. Ashton must realize his joke didn't go over well, because he clears his throat and also motions to the waiter, who comes over with the same record-setting speed.
What have you got on tap?
He asks, and the waiter rattles off a list of beer names, most of which I've never heard of. Ashton orders one and Marcus gets one too, leaving me the only one at the table without an alcoholic beverage, or a clue as to why everyone's so tense. To my relief, Marcus shakes off whatever mood came over him and takes over the conversation, asking Kendall and Ashton about their Christmas plans. Both intend to go home to their families, before skillfully steering the conversation back to my cats and their shenanigans. By the time we're done telling the story of Queen Elizabeth stealing a piece of steak from under Joffrey's nose, all of us are laughing, and most of the tension is gone, at least on the surface. Kendall is still avoiding looking at Ashton, and he seems to derive great enjoyment from her behavior, as if she were a sulky but cute toddler. They must have met before. I can't think of any other explanation. When the appetizers come out, Kendall excuses herself to go to the bathroom, and I follow her there, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. But it's a single stall, so I end up waiting outside, and Kendall avoids my questioning gaze as she comes out and hurries back to the table. Fine, I'll have to interrogate her after.
Any luck?
Marcus murmurs in my ear when I return to the table, and I shake my head with a rueful grin. Clearly, he's as curious as I am, and has had just as little luck getting answers from his friend. As the meal proceeds, Marcus and I employ every conversational gambit in our arsenal to keep the tension from returning. And we succeed, mostly because after 3 glasses of sangria, Kendall seems to forget about the man at her side and becomes her normal, friendly, bubbly self. Laughing, she describes the ridiculous errands her boss sends her on before launching into a hilarious story about a recent date gone wrong. He was determined to show me his ex-girlfriend's picture, she says, her hazel eyes sparkling as she cuts into her Eggs Benedict. No matter what I said. Marcus and I are both whooping by this point, but when I look at Ashton, I notice that his smile seems forced, his hand clenched tightly on his fork. It's not until the conversation shifts to our favorite shows and movies that he relaxes, his easy charm returning as we debate the pros and cons of Avatar and Game of Thrones. With skill and effort, we manage to keep the conversation flowing until the waiter brings the check, at which point the collective sigh of relief is almost audible. In a typical alpha male fashion, Marcus and Ashton argue over who pays before deciding to split the bill in half, with Marcus effectively paying for me and Ashton for Kendall. I fully expect her to be okay with that. My friend has never had a problem letting men buy her food and drinks. But she whips out her credit card and, glaring at Ashton, plunks it down into the waiter's hand, instructing him to charge her portion there. This isn't a double date, she explains tersely when I look at her with eyebrows raised. Then she chugs the rest of her sangria, and as soon as the waiter returns with the credit cards, she grabs her card, signs her check, and, with a rushed goodbye to me and Marcus, runs away. Chapter 40. Emma. Over the next week, I do my best to pry some answers out of Kendall, but in a very un-Kendall-like fashion, she stonewalls me, claiming that she just thinks Ashton is an entitled ass. I know his type, she says with more than a trace of bitterness. He's a complete and total man-whore, a pretty boy who's never had to work for anything in his life. Everything's been handed to him on a silver platter, all the women always falling at his feet. Well, I see right through his bullshit, and I'm not buying that fake charm act. And no matter how much I try to pin her down on the reason for that opinion, she doesn't tell me more. Marcus doesn't get anywhere with Ashton either, though the guy does let slip something along the lines of, "A gentleman doesn't kiss and tell," confirming my impression that they'd already met, and possibly done more than talking. The mystery with our friends aside, my second week of living with Marcus is everything I could have hoped for and more. Though on the surface we're completely different, we mesh together seamlessly, as if all along we'd been two pieces of one whole. After the brunch on Saturday, we spend the rest of the weekend by ourselves, doing a mix of fun activities and work. We view some modern art at MoMA, then brave the chilly weather to take a long walk in Central Park. When we get hungry, I buy us tacos from a food truck, and we eat them while strolling along Park Avenue, where Marcus shows me his office building. In the evening, we relax at home with a rented movie, then do a little work, sitting with our laptops on the couch, side by side. That is, until a certain someone decides that my pajama tank top is a sexual provocation and drags me off to bed. On Sunday, another icy storm blankets the city, so we don't go anywhere, staying warm and cozy inside the penthouse with my cats. Marcus does his usual hardcore gym workout after breakfast, and because I have nothing better to do, I let him teach me how to properly lift weights. Afterward, we swim in the pool and eat lunch, then Skype for an hour with my grandparents. In the afternoon, we again do some work, and I covertly write another chapter of my secret project. I now have 5,000 words, and I'm getting seriously excited. On the weekdays, we repeat the routine from last week, except Marcus convinces me to swim with him in the evenings. At first, I'm reluctant. I've always been too tired for exercise when I get home from work. But the pool is so convenient and refreshing that by the middle of the week, I find myself looking forward to the activity. Not that I'm a skilled swimmer or anything. I do something between a dog paddle and leisurely frog style. But it's enough for my sluggish muscles because by Tuesday, I'm seriously sore. Of course, it could also be from the weightlifting on Sunday. It was the first time I'd stepped foot inside a gym in years.
Poor kitten. Let me see if I can help. Marcus croons sympathetically when I complain that I hurt all over. Then he lays me face down on our bed and goes to work, massaging each aching muscle until I'm overcooked spaghetti in seventh heaven, at which point he turns me over and makes me soar in an entirely different way. It's all so perfect it frightens me. If things go south now, it won't just break my heart, it will completely devastate me. With each day that passes, I fall deeper under Marcus's spell, grow ever more addicted to his vital presence and the way he makes me feel like I'm the only woman in the world. When we're together, his focus on me is so absolute, I feel like he notices every blink of my lashes, every subtle shift in my mood. Even when we're both working on our laptops, a change in my breathing is all it takes for those cool blue eyes to home in on me and fill with familiar dark heat. He's so intense about me sometimes it should be a relief when we're apart, but it's not, because I start missing him within the first 10 seconds. "Stop being such a scaredy cat. Why would things go south?" Kendall says when I confide in her during my lunch hour on Wednesday. "You two are perfect for each other. I've never seen a couple so in love." That's the thing. I prop up my phone so I have my hands free to unwrap my sandwich.
Another fancy concoction of prosciutto on thinly sliced rye with arugula and fig jam. You see, I love Marcus, but I have no idea if he loves me. Kendall snorts. Yeah, okay, please. That man worships the cat hair carpet you walk on. Case in point, he's carved out an evening for you two to go to dinner with Janie and Mr. Suckup. I grimace. Yeah, don't remind me. Biting into the sandwich, I mumble through a mouthful. I agreed to go last week, but I'd much rather cuddle with Marcus and our cats at home. Our cats, is it? Kendall grins. Are they his fur babies now, too? They might as well be, I say after I finish chewing. Cotton Ball has changed allegiances completely, and Queen Elizabeth is warming up more to Marcus every day. Mr. Puffs is the only holdout, but I think it's because he's batting for the third team. His father, Satan? Kendall guesses. I shake my head. Joffrey, Marcus's butler. Those two are getting tight. My cat actually behaves in his presence. Doesn't even try to steal food when he cooks in the kitchen. Can you imagine? No way. Kendall sounds appropriately shocked. Maybe he has a thing for British men. He certainly seems to, I say, then recall the mystery that's bugging me. Speaking of men, American, not British, how did you and Ashton— Wow, real smooth, Ms. Sleuth. Now, why don't you finish your delicious-looking sandwich, and I'll go get myself a boring salad for lunch. And as she hangs up, I hear her mutter enviously, a butler who cooks my foot. To my relief, the dinner with Janie and Landon that evening goes smoothly, with the banker only briefly wrinkling his patrician nose at the patch of cat hair that got on my new, stylish outfit when Mr. Puffs ambushed us on the way out. After that, Janie's boyfriend turns on the charm, and though it's definitely on the slightly fake side, the four of us end up having a good time, even after Marcus has another sneezing fit from Janie's perfume. I'm so sorry, she apologizes for the 10th time as we say our goodbyes, with me prudently avoiding hugging her this time. I swear I would have never worn it had I known. No, stop, it's totally my fault. I should have warned you, I say, feeling bad. At home, we've got almost everything unscented, so I forgot. We'll be sure to avoid any and all fragrance the next time we meet, Landon announces, shaking Marcus's hand with a big, toothy smile. I picture him throwing out Janie's perfume that very night, lest he repeat the error with another important business contact, and hide my grin. One billionaire's perfume allergy may spare the public, and Janie herself, from at least one overly strong smell.
Do you think he's going to throw out every perfume bottle they've got?
Marcus asks when we're in the car on the way home. Oh yeah, I say. It's scary how our minds are so often on the same page these days. You better buy some stock in whichever company makes unscented products. Now that Landon's on the case, it's going to be the next big thing. And as we laugh in that way of two people perfectly attuned to each other, I finally decide how to handle the situation with my apartment. I'm going to get rid of my old furniture and trust that what we have is real.
Chapter 41. Marcus. When Emma informs me that she's listing her remaining stuff on Craigslist and officially giving up her place, I feel both triumphant and relieved, and to my surprise, a little guilty. You did what? Ashton gapes at me in disbelief when I meet him for coffee near my office on Thursday and fess up about the situation. I scrub a hand over my face. I just told you. I got Long to buy her landlady's townhouse in Brooklyn at above market value. To force Emma to move in with you, Ashton clarifies, staring at me like I've lost my marbles. No, to nudge her to move in with me, I snap. Fucking Ashton. I was really counting on him being on my side in this. She has all these hang-ups about money and not wanting to take advantage of me, and I screwed up with her once before, so she's got trust issues. We were heading there anyway, and I just wanted to expedite things, okay? Is that so fucking wrong? Not if you're Machiavelli. He props his elbows on the table, looking fascinated. What else have you done to this poor girl? Nothing. Then some demonic creature, Mr. Puffs perhaps, tugs on my tongue, and I grudgingly admit, I may have also had her investigated when we first started dating. What the fuck? He straightens. Why? Did you think she's some kind of criminal? Of course not. She said she didn't want to see me after a particularly great date, and I needed some information to figure out how to... You know what? Never mind. I don't like the way he's looking at me, like I'm admitting to murder. Hasn't every man in love done at least a little stalking? Oh no. He picks up his cup, dark amusement curling the corners of his mouth. You're not getting out of this so easily. If I understand it right, you pretty much stalked Emma until you got her to date you, and now you've also made sure she has no choice but to move in with you. Bullshit. She has a choice. She could have gotten a different apartment. She decided to live with me of her own free will, which is why I don't understand why I feel any guilt over this situation whatsoever. Yeah, sure. Ashton is full-on laughing now, the bastard. So how are you going to get her to marry you? Blackmail? Torture? Kidnapping? Fuck you, man. One day, you'll meet a woman who won't put up with your bullshit, and then you'll see what measures you resort to. A strange expression crosses Ashton's face, but I'm too pissed to dwell on it. Picking up my cup, I down my coffee in a few long gulps and stand up. I've got to go. Marcus, wait. Ashton jumps to his feet and steps in front of me before I can walk away from the table. Listen, I'm sorry, man. He sounds genuinely contrite. You just caught me off guard. You have to admit it's kind of ridiculous that you're the Herald's most eligible billionaire or whatever, and you have to resort to this kind of shit to get a bookstore clerk to be with you. But he raises his palm before I can plant my fist into his face. Having met Emma twice now and seen the way you two are together, I understand why you're so hung up on her. Some of my anger eases. You do? Oh, yeah. He gets back to his seat, and after a moment of deliberation, I sit down as well. I've always admired your drive, he says, picking up his coffee cup. Remember that first time we all went to a bar after our corporate finance exam? Barry was there and his girlfriend, Lena. Anyway, we'd all had a few beers, and then you told us you were going to be a billionaire. Remember that? He takes a sip. I force my tightly curled hand to unclench. I do, yeah. It was a few days after Ashton and I had been partnered up on our corporate finance project before we really got to know each other and became friends. Ashton sets down his cup. Right. Well, here's the thing. As drunk as we were, no one laughed at your proclamation. No one was even tempted to laugh because we all knew you'd make it happen. You radiated ambition. It practically oozed from your pores. You were like a fucking missile, locked and loaded and on the way to your target. Nobody doubted that you'd get there. Not our teachers, not our fellow students, and certainly not me. I frown. So I envied you that. Ashton's face is as serious as I've ever seen it. You knew exactly what you wanted out of life, and I didn't have a fucking clue. But recently, having observed you over the past couple of years, I realized something. That missile-like determination, that ambition that propelled you forward, you couldn't turn it off. You made your billions, and you just kept going, unable to stop, unable to appreciate any of it. My frown deepens. That's not true. Yeah, I know, you enjoy having the penthouse and the private plane and all that money in the bank. But has any of that truly satisfied you? I've never seen you pause and take it in or appreciate it on any level beyond the most superficial. I exhale a frustrated breath. What are you saying? I'm saying that I stopped envying you after a while. Like that missile, you needed to keep going, keep chasing after your ever-moving target, else you'd fall out of the sky. Take away the chase, and you'd crash and burn. Or you would have a couple of months ago. Now I'm not so sure. I cock my head. Because of Emma? He nods. At least I assume it's because of her. You've been different the last couple of times I've seen you. Still focused, still driven, but Less machine-like, if that makes sense. Like you could actually turn it off if you wanted to. A rueful smile touches his face. Around Emma, you're almost human. Though from what you've just told me, you may have simply redirected some of that drive. Poor girl doesn't stand a chance, does she? No, I say softly. She doesn't. I'd give up every dollar in my bank account to keep her, make 1,000 covert deals to ensure that she remains mine. Ashton's expression inexplicably softens. You love her, don't you? Yes, I love her. I take a breath and let it out slowly. It's getting easier to say the words, to accept them for the incontrovertible truth they are. And you're right. I am more human around her, happy in a way I've never known before, which is why I don't want to fuck it up. If Emma finds what I've done, how would she find out? Ashton says reasonably. You're not planning on telling her, right? No. As much as I hate the idea of having secrets between us, I can't risk losing her. Ashton grins. Right, smart choice. Chicks can be funny about the whole stalking and Machiavellian machinations business, and you can count on me to keep my mouth shut. As to whatever guilt you're feeling, that's just more evidence of your growing humanity. Marcus the Missile wouldn't have cared about the means, just the end. So take that guilt, shove it deep down, and focus on the future with your girlfriend. Do what you've got to do to make her your wife. I dwell on the conversation with Ashton for the rest of the day, doing my best to suppress the inconvenient guilt. Was he right? Did I force Emma into living with me rather than just nudging her into making the right decision? But no. Long Shell Corporation made the offer to Metz last Friday, and Emma didn't inform me about her decision until this morning. Since I assumed the landlady called her right away, that means my kitten has taken the time to think it through, rather than acting out of desperation, and I'm glad about that. For all that, the primitive beast inside me wants to cage Emma in his lair. The thought that she might be with me because she has to is repellent. I want her to want me, to love me as much as I love her. What started off as a sexual obsession has deepened into a need so powerful it bears all the markings of addiction. Except instead of destroying me, like I initially feared it would, it has enriched my life. When that $700 million trade went bad the weekend before Thanksgiving, I blamed my feelings for Emma for distracting me from what's important, instead of realizing that I was beginning to embrace the truly important things. The things I've wanted since I was a child, with an indifferent alcoholic for a mother. The things I didn't dare admit to wanting even to myself. It had been easy to acknowledge the physical deprivations of my childhood, to tell myself that money would eliminate the hollow fear inside me, that feeling of always balancing on the knife's edge, of being a single misstep away from a disaster. But no matter how wealthy I became, the fear stayed with me, driving me to work even harder, ever longer. Ashton was right about me. I'd had no off switch, because poverty had never been what I truly feared, and money not what I really chased. Over the past couple of weeks with Emma, the feeling of contentment I first experienced with her has grown stronger, the anxiety over the capricious future receding until it's nothing more than a dim shadow from the past. I can now look at what I've earned and know, really know, with a certainty untainted by that lifelong fear, that one bad quarter won't wipe me out, that if I step away from work one evening, I won't lose everything I've achieved. And perversely, that knowledge has been good for my fund's performance. I've been calmer, less stressed, which has enabled me to assess investments with a different eye. Over the past 2 weeks, we've taken on more risk in certain areas while dialing it back in others, and we're up another 2% in a market that's oscillating like a roller coaster. I'm still working a lot, still striving to do as well as I can for my investors, but if I have to take an evening off to go to dinner with Emma and her friends, I do it without worrying that I'm undermining my life's work, that I'm edging closer to that vague, ever-looming disaster. Of course, it helps that Emma is so understanding when I whip out my laptop on the weekends or during the evenings, that in her own quiet way, she's as much of a workaholic as I am. I didn't pick up on that about her at first. erroneously assuming that since she didn't go into a high-powered profession like business, medicine, or law, she's likely to be less ambitious, more laid back. And she is, in some ways. The rates she charges for editing are significantly below the industry average, for instance, but in other ways, she's just as dedicated to her chosen field. Without making a big production out of it, she edits between a novella and a full novel every week on top of having her full-time bookstore job. Each time I look up from my computer, I see her working, and she never seems to tire of it or complain. The more I learn about my kitten, the more I both want and respect her, and the more I want the one thing I now realize I've been missing: a real family with her. I'm still thinking about it on Friday. Last night, each time I saw Emma cuddling her cats against her chest, I pictured a baby in their place. Each time she smiled, I saw a toddler with those same dimples. It's too soon for this, I know, but I can't help it. If Emma gave me the green light, I'd have her pregnant in a heartbeat. She hasn't given the green light, though, far from it, so I've been extra careful about condoms since our last slip-up. Though neither of the 2 morning-after pills she'd taken made her sick, I read up on the potential side effects, and I don't want her to have to take another one. Instead, I've been looking into safe, effective forms of birth control that rely less on my willpower in the heat of the moment. As much as I'd like a baby with Emma, it's her body and her decision. My task is to convince her that I'm the right person, to prove to her that I'll be a good husband and father, that she can trust me never to walk away or prioritize anything over her again. To that end, though Monday is the Alpha Zone conference, I wrap up my Friday workday early, at 5, a mere hour after market close, and decide to surprise Emma at her job. She's working extended hours this week because of the holiday season, and I still haven't seen her bookstore, though she's told me quite a few humorous stories about their quirky regulars and her forever dieting boss. It's well past 6 by the time I get to Brooklyn, the extra heavy traffic defeating even Wilson's navigational abilities. The bookstore is tucked away on a quiet street in the Prospect Heights neighborhood, and the brass bell over the door rings as I push open the door and walk in. Inside, the place smells like coffee and printed paper, with the crisp scent of new volumes mixing in with the mustier odor coming from older editions. I inhale it all appreciatively. Though most of my reading these days takes place on a screen, I really do love paper books. Emma is not at the register up front. No one is manning that, in fact, so I walk through the rows of bookshelves looking for her. A few customers are leisurely browsing in the various sections, but she's nowhere to be found. That is, until I get to the small sitting area in the back. I hear the voices before I see them. Emma's peal of laughter mixes with the man's deeper tones, and my pulse shoots up even before I step around the corner and see them. Emma and a young blonde guy with glasses are sitting in adjacent armchairs, looking at the sheets of paper spread out on the coffee table in front of them, their heads so close together they're almost touching. My blood pressure goes through the roof, a red mist veiling my vision as I take in the dimpled smile on Emma's face, and the answering flush on the guy's fair skin. His foot is tapping nervously on the floor, as if he's trying to psych himself up for something, and there's a definite tenting in the crotch of his khaki pants. A hard-on. He's got a fucking hard-on. I'm so enraged I can't move, because if I do, I might kill him with my bare hands. So, yes, I think the opening fight scene is great, but right here, Emma picks up one of the papers. It's too much exposition, especially for the first chapter. It's important not to overwhelm the reader with an info dump. You want to ease them into your world, rather than throwing them in head first. Right. The guy's Adam's apple bobs as he leans in another inch and surreptitiously sniffs the air, as if smelling her hair. I'll take it out. Also, I wanted to ask you. He waits until Emma glances at him. Do you have any plans tonight? My rage-induced paralysis disappears with a violent spike of fury. Yes, she does. My voice cracks through the air like a whip, and as the two of them spring apart, their heads snapping up in that guilty way of startled people, It's all I can do to remain still instead of smashing my fist into the guy's now colorless face. I can't give in to the violence swirling inside me, not when my rival is a full head shorter and half my size. What I can do, though, is make it crystal clear to whom Emma belongs. As she jumps to her feet with a surprised, "Marcus, what are you doing here?" I stride over and throw my arm around her shoulders, tucking her small, curvy body against my side. My girlfriend is spending the evening with me. My tone is knife-sharp as I glower at her companion, who's now prudently backing away, and every other evening in the future. "Marcus!" Emma sounds shocked, but really, she should be grateful I'm just being rude instead of pounding the guy into the floor, as every territorial instinct in me is screaming to do. The asshole was asking Emma out. My Emma. And he had a fucking hard-on. I'm sorry," the guy stutters out, looking like he wants to disappear on the spot. I didn't know that is, I have to go." Turning, he runs off like the coward he is, ignoring Emma's cry of, "Ian, wait!" As soon as the bell over the door rings, hopefully signifying his departure, I release Emma and turn to face her. Her cheeks are bright red, her curls quivering madly as she glares up at me, hands clenched into tiny fists at her sides. "What the hell was that? Ian is a potential client. I was helping him with his first book, and he was hitting on you." The words come out through clenched teeth. The fucker was sitting close enough to sniff your hair, and he had a raging hard-on. Emma's eyes widen, and she steps back, some of the wind leaving her sails. "What? No, he didn't." "Yes, he fucking did. I'm ready to kill just thinking about it." Emma opens her mouth, then shuts it as her gaze goes to something behind me. Spinning around, I see that some of the customers who've been browsing are standing there, watching the fight with the avid curiosity of rubberneckers. "Excuse us," Emma says tightly and marches toward me. Grabbing my arm, she tows me toward a door in the back marked "Employees Only." Pushing it open, she all but drags me into a small, stuffy room filled with boxes and shuts the door behind us. Then she rounds on me, gray eyes narrowed and hands going to her hips. "I don't care what Ian's penis was or wasn't doing," she says in a low, furious voice. "He's my boss's nephew, and he had no idea I have a boyfriend." "Why the fuck not?" I advance on her. "We're living together." "Yes, but it just happened and—" She gulps, backing away as she registers the look on my face. "Marcus, be reasonable. I've only met the guy a couple of times and—" I catch her against the wall, pinning her in place by placing my palms on either side of her head. Dipping my head, I growl, "You just said he's your boss's nephew." She bravely lifts her chin. "Mr. Smithson doesn't know about you either. It's been so busy here we've had no time to talk. I was going to tell him next week when I officially changed my address, but—" I cut her off with a savage kiss, the jealousy transforming into a searing need to claim her. "Oh, fuck, let me down, right now." I step back and she hops off the boxes, frantically pulling up her jeans and underwear as I stuff the used tissue back into my pocket and zip up my fly. Her deliciously round ass jiggles as she works the tight jeans up her creamy thighs, and though I should be completely spent, my cock attempts a demonstration of renewed interest in my pants. Now's not the time to indulge the greedy bastard, though, as my kitten looks more than a little upset. Carefully, I extend a hand toward her. "Emma." "Don't talk," she hisses, backing away. "Don't even make a sound. Where anyone could hear— Oh, God, I can't even— Shh, it's okay." Catching her arms, I pull her against my chest for a soothing hug. We were only here for a few minutes, and we were pretty quiet. Or at least I think we were. From what I recall, our mouths were mostly occupied with kissing. Either way, I tell her reassuringly, "You won't get into any kind of trouble, I promise." "You can't promise that." Her words are muffled against my chest. I stroke her back. "Yes, I can. From what I've seen of him, this Ian asshole will likely be too embarrassed by his gaffe to complain to his uncle, and if any of the customers say something about the backroom goings-on, well, I'll deal with the fallout if it happens. An in-person apology from me, accompanied by a check for $100,000 or so, should go a long way towards smoothing your boss's feathers, should any of them get ruffled in the first place. Instead of calming her, my explanation brings back her anger. Pulling back, she nails me with a narrow-eyed look. You think money is a fix for everything? Not everything. There's no amount in the world that can transport me back in time so I can remember to use a condom. But what's done is done, so I take a breath and say bluntly, I didn't wear protection again. I know, I saw. Then she catches herself and adds in a calmer tone, I think we're safe. I'm supposed to get my period this weekend. Ah, good. I'm glad she won't have to take another morning after pill, even as a part of me feels irrationally disappointed. Shoving that part deep down, I say, I looked into some more foolproof methods of birth control for us. IUDs seem particularly promising. And there are also, later, okay? She casts a worried look at the door. Pushing me away, she tries to tame her hair, a futile effort given what my fingers have done to her curls, then smooths her palms over her clothes. You look fine, my sweet, I assure her, and clasping her hand in a firm grip, I lead her to the door.
Chapter 42. Emma. I'm still fuming as we eat dinner at home an hour and a half later. Though none of the customers said anything or even smirked much when we emerged from the back room, for the remaining 15 minutes of my shift, I felt like I had a scarlet A branded on my forehead, or maybe a tattoo that says, Property of Marcus. It would certainly be in line with his behavior toward Ian. Marcus all but pissed in a circle around me, then literally marked me with his cum. Shoving a bite of chicken into my mouth, I picture the bug-eyed panic on Ian's face as Marcus came toward us, then the obvious sex noises that must have been coming out of the back room, despite what Marcus said about us being quiet. And though I still want to die from embarrassment, a snort of laughter escapes my throat, causing me to choke on the food.
You okay, kitten?
Marcus asks, immediately concerned, and for some reason that sends me over the edge. Whooping hysterically between bouts of coughing, I shove my plate away and jump to my feet. I'm laughing so hard, tears are running down my face. Queen Elizabeth, who had been calmly napping on one of the free dining chairs, raises her head and gives me a look suggesting I'm mental, and I can't blame her. Marcus's behavior was atrocious, not funny in the least, and mine wasn't any better. What was I thinking, dragging my insatiable pirate to the back room when the air between us all but crackled with a sexual charge? If I get fired on Monday for inappropriate behavior at work, it'll be no more than I deserve. The thought sobers me up, and I return to my seat, wiping away the tears as Marcus stares at me in bemusement. I can't blame him either. I've barely spoken 2 words to him since we came out of the back room, even though he waited for me to finish my shift and we went home together. He even attempted to apologize for acting like an ass at my place of work, but I could tell he didn't mean it. He thinks he's somehow in the right on this, as if I would have ever gone for poor Ian. You know, I'd never cheat on you, right? I say, figuring I might as well state the obvious. Not with Ian, not with anyone else. Marcus's gaze sharpens and he puts down his fork.
I know. I trust you.
So then why?
Because I don't trust them.
I blink. Them?
His jaw tightens. Men, especially desperate ones, like that blonde asshole. He would have blushed and stuttered, and you would have felt bad for him, like for a sad little puppy. He'd worm his way into your good graces, become your friend, and next thing you know, he's rubbing his fucking heart-on all over you.
Marcus? I can't believe he's being so vulgar.
Ian wouldn't. Oh, yes, he would, he says grimly. You just don't know how men think and how far they'd go to get what I have.
What? Sex?
You.
His gaze burns into me.
You, Emma, are a fucking prize, and you don't even know it. Each time you smile, some asshole gets hard, and I'm not just talking about me.
I laugh incredulously.
Yeah, okay. Now that's nothing but the truth. You slay them and me without even trying. And not just because that sweet ass of yours could launch 1,000 ships. It's you, kitten. Everything about you.
I stop laughing, my breath catching in my chest at the dark intensity in his stare. He means it. These aren't just empty words. And for the first time, I wonder whether Kendall might be right. Could the billionaire I love already be in love with me? Heart hammering madly in my chest, I gather every ounce of my courage and prepare to take the biggest risk of all. Marcus,
Excuse me, Mr. Corelli, Ms. Walsh. Are you done with the main course?
Joffrey's appearance is like being rudely woken from a dream. Blinking, I pull back the hand I was about to lay on top of Marcus's arm and force myself to smile. Yes, I think we are. In fact, I'm pretty full, so I think I'll skip dessert. I glance questioningly at Marcus, and he nods.
Same here, Joffrey.
His voice is even as he rises to his feet.
Thank you for the dinner, and we'll see you tomorrow. For now, we're heading off to bed.
And gathering my hand in his big palm, he leads me upstairs, where he demonstrates exactly how hard my smile gets him. All weekend long, I try to work up the courage to say the words, but I can never find the right moment. Partially, it's because Marcus spends a bunch of hours preparing for the Alpha Zone presentation he has to give at 8 a.m. on Monday, double and triple checking all the facts in the 100-slide deck his analysts have made. But mostly, it's because I'm again uncertain, wondering if it might have been wishful thinking on my part, if I read too much into what he said at dinner. He definitely wants me, of that I have no doubt. Instead of fading, the fire between us burns hotter with each passing day, the sexual chemistry getting more intense with time. Now that we're living together, it feels like all I have to do to turn Marcus on is breathe, and all he needs to do is look at me. And no matter how many times he takes me, or how hot and kinky our encounters get, it's never enough. Could that be what Marcus meant when he called me a prize? Was he referring to this off-the-charts chemistry between us? By Sunday night, I've almost convinced myself to say the words regardless. But at the last moment, I chicken out. Instead, I show Marcus how I feel by worshiping every inch of his body the way he worships mine, and then giving him a massage to de-stress him before tomorrow morning's presentation. How many people will be there? I ask, spreading coconut oil over the broad, hard-muscled plane of his back. In general, how big is this Alpha Zone organization?
It's only a few hundred people,
he replies, stretching into my touch like a lazy cat, the big jungle kind, not my fluffy kitties.
But it'll be broadcast live, and reporters from every major news outlet will be there.
I knead the heavy muscles of his shoulders. Is that where you did your famous tire company presentation? The one that destroyed the stock?
Yes, a couple of years back.
He yawns.
You know about that?
Of course, who doesn't? I'd read up on it more in recent days, and apparently Marcus hadn't just scoured his target's public filings and interviewed hundreds of tire dealers. To learn about the manufacturing defects and the company's use of slave labor, he'd had people undercover at the actual factories in China. His methods had been both brilliant and borderline illegal, his attack on the stock unprecedented in both its scope and ferocity. The Netflix documentary called his presentation "A Torpedo Aimed at the Very Heart of a Rotten Citadel," and labeled Marcus a modern-day buccaneer, a description I found perversely hot, fitting as it does into my most non-PC pirate fantasies. When I look down, though, I find the buccaneer himself out for the count, my massage having performed the rare feat of getting my inexhaustible sex robot to fall asleep before me. Grinning, I climb off him, wipe the oil off my hands with a tissue, turn off the lights, and spread out next to him. I'm already drifting off to sleep when I feel his powerful arms wrap around me, tucking me against his hard body. blowing out a contented breath, I burrow deeper into his warm embrace and vow that tomorrow is the day. When Marcus returns from his presentation, no matter what happens or how scared I get, I'll tell him how I feel.
Chapter 43. Marcus. I've never been prone to fear of public speaking. It's just as easy for me to give a presentation in front of hundreds as to speak to a few of my PMs, but I can't deny that my adrenaline levels spike before every alpha zone, the knowledge of what's at stake revving up my heart rate and sharpening my focus. Since Emma's massage knocked me out earlier than planned, I wake up at 4 and spend the next 2 hours going through every number in my presentation. My pitch today is about an undervalued biotech stock. If our analysts' research is right, it's going to go through the roof in 6 months' time when the FDA approves its revolutionary blood pressure drug. The approval is a long shot, or at least the Wallstreet community thinks so, but the data we've gathered by interviewing the clinical trial participants and looking through their medical records suggests otherwise, and we've been building a substantial position in the stock over the past few weeks. It's a high-risk, high-reward investment, the kind that, if it plays out as expected, might earn the top prize at the Alpha Zone next year. For today, though, my task is convincing several hundred Alpha Zone attendees and dozens of reporters that my idea has merit, which means I need to know the company inside out and make sure every footnote in my 100-slide presentation is correct. Cotton Ball keeps me company as I work, and to my surprise, after an hour, Mr. Puffs joins him. Purring, the massive cat stretches out on my desk and watches me as if I were a particularly tasty mouse. It's highly likely he's planning some mischief, but I'm too busy to worry about it. Half of my priceless art is broken at this point anyway. I'm almost done going through my presentation when I step away for a bathroom break. When I return, the half-full coffee cup that I left on the desk is lying on its side, its liquid contents all over the keyboard of my laptop. I don't need to look for a culprit. He's lying right there on my desk, eyeing me with a smug expression. The evil cat knows exactly what he's done. I don't even for a moment consider that it could be his brother. Cotton Ball is as well behaved as a cat can be. No, it's Puffs who did this, and on purpose. He knows how important this is to me. Get out, I tell him, stabbing my finger at the door. Out, now, or I'll drag you out by your puffy tail. The cat disdainfully flicks said tail at me and lazily rises to his feet. Jumping off my desk, he strolls away, his smug demeanor all but shouting, "Mission accomplished." Well, the joke is on him, because the hard drive on my laptop always backs up to an attached flash drive. I'd use the cloud, but I have too much confidential information on here, and low-tech solutions are always safer. Taking a deep breath, I make sure that everything is fine with the flash drive. It is, to my relief. And then I take out my backup laptop and finish going through the presentation, with only Cotton Ball allowed in my office. Shortly after 6, Emma wakes up, so I pack up my backup laptop and the attached drive and join her for breakfast. I'm skipping my workout for the day. I want to save all the adrenaline for the podium. So as soon as we're done, I get dressed and prepare to head over to the Plaza, the hotel where the conference is taking place. "Good luck. I know you'll do great," Emma says, beaming up at me as I kiss her by the door, and my chest fills with warmth at the knowledge that she'll be waiting for me when I return home. Tonight, I decide as I get into the car. After my presentation, I'll tell her how I feel, and if she feels the same, I'll propose. The warmth stays with me all through the drive to Midtown, and as I walk through the gleaming lobby to the conference area in the back, my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. It lingers as I greet acquaintances and strangers, shaking hands with friends and rivals alike. My presentation is the first one, my reputation having earned me the honor of being the 8 a.m. keynote. At 7:20, I head into the ballroom to set up, and when I get to the podium, I open my laptop bag to take out my computer. Except a piece of it is missing, specifically the flash drive I'd left plugged into the side. The drive that contains my presentation with all my notes from this morning, as I didn't bother loading the files from the flash drive onto the backup laptop's hard drive. Where could it have gone? I'm riffling through my bag, hoping it just fell somewhere to the bottom, when my phone vibrates in my pocket. It's Emma, so even though my blood pressure is rising by the moment, I pick up right away. "Kitten, is everything okay?" "I'm not sure." She sounds breathless. "Puff's nearly swallowed something. A flash drive of some kind. I found him choking on it in the corner. Bad cat, bad! I have no idea where he got it from, but just in case, I figured I'd call you." That demon cat. He was really determined to fuck with me this morning. Squeezing my eyes shut, I count to 3, then ask in a level tone, "Is Mr. Puffs okay?" "Yeah, he'll be fine. Not that he deserves to be." Mr. Puffs must still be in the vicinity because she hisses again, "Bad kitty, bad!" before saying in a normal voice, "So, about the flash drive." I open my eyes and take a steadying breath. "You did the right thing calling me. My presentation is on that flash drive. Puffs must have stolen it from my bag while I was eating. Is Joffrey there? I need him to plug it into a computer to make sure it's still functional, and if so, hop into a cab and bring it to me. Tell him to go to the grand ballroom at the plaza." Emma gasps. "Oh no. Joffrey just stepped out to grab groceries, but I can do it. I don't need to be at work until 10 today. I exhale. "That would be great. Thank you. Call me as soon as you know if it works." "Will do." She hangs up, and I open my email to retrieve an older version of my presentation. It's missing all the changes from the past couple of days, but if the flash drive is too chewed up, it'll have to do. 6 minutes later, my phone vibrates. "It works," Emma reports, her voice oddly flat. "I'll run it over right away." Frowning, I start to ask her what's wrong, but she's already hung up. And no matter how many times I call her, she doesn't pick up again, texting only that she's on the way. It's not until 20 minutes later, when she texts me that she's walking into the hotel, that I realize what else was backed up on the flash drive, and curse myself in a dozen different ways.
Chapter 44. Emma. I'm shaking, literally shaking, as I walk through the ostentatious lobby, the flash drive clutched tightly in my fist. The sense of betrayal is so sharp I can't even begin to process it, can't think about all the implications. Emma Walsh. That was the name of the folder on the flash drive that caught my eye as I plugged it into my laptop to make sure it works. Marcus's presentation was there too, along with a bunch of other folders. But I saw that Emma Walsh label, and I just had to click. There were a lot of files in the folder, but the first one I opened was labeled simply Report. And inside was indeed a report on me. It was thorough, containing so many facts about me I hadn't even known some of them, like the name of the hospital where I was born. It talked about my family and where I went to school, listed all the places I've ever lived and worked, mentioned all the friends I've ever had and all the men I've ever dated. It had screenshots from my social media profiles dating all the way back to my teenage years, and everything I ever added to my Amazon wish list. Stunned, I skimmed it all, then opened some of the other files. One was my lease application for my studio. Another was my college admissions essay. A few others were school assignments I'd done in college, including some short stories for my creative writing class. Ignoring the nausea twisting my insides, I kept clicking. My student loan applications, bank statements, vaccination records, medical history. It was all there, my entire life laid out in that folder, from my hopes and dreams to how many cavities I'd had as a child. Operating purely on autopilot, I called Marcus to tell him that the flash drive works. Then I got dressed and caught a cab, my stomach sickeningly tight and my thoughts spinning like a tornado. Marcus had me investigated. When? Why? Did he think I was some kind of con artist out to part him from his money? Was it because I was now moving in, a precaution to make sure I'm not a user like my mother? But no, I realized halfway to my destination. I remembered the first edition books he'd gifted me weeks ago, my 3 all-time favorites, and how he'd seemed to know exactly which flowers I loved. And the white scarf, the one that looked suspiciously like the one on my Amazon wish list. He'd even told me I should change my privacy settings there, admitted to knowing things about me from my social media. I'd accused him of being a stalker then, but I'd had no idea. I hadn't even had a clue. He kept calling me all through the ride up here, but I couldn't bear to pick up the phone. Anger and betrayal are a thick knot inside my throat, my rib cage so tight it's all I can do to take shallow, rapid breaths. Marcus, the man I love, the man I've agreed to live with, had commissioned this horribly invasive report on me when we'd just started dating, and I can't imagine why. My fingers feel icy cold, my ears ringing as I leave the lobby and enter the conference area in the back. Alpha Zone Investment Conference, the placard in the middle of the main hallway states, with men and women in business attire milling all around. The grand ballroom is to my right, and I hurry there, ignoring the nauseating drumming of my pulse. Deliver the flash drive and leave. That's my mission. I can't think beyond that. Can't look past the simple task of putting one foot in front of the other. Once the drive is safely in Marcus's hands, I'll worry about the next steps, about what this discovery means for us and the future of our relationship, if there can even be one. It's 6 minutes to 8, and the ballroom is already full to bursting, with cameras and news crews everywhere. All around me are bespoke suits and 5-figure bags, men and women who control more wealth than kings of old. Under different circumstances, I'd feel intimidated, out of place in my casual jeans and sneakers. But right now, I couldn't care less. Marcus is by the podium on the stage, getting his mic attached, and my heart climbs into my throat at the familiar sight of his strong features, at the way his thick, dark eyebrows angle together as he talks to the technician in a low voice. I recall that deep, soft voice murmuring endearments to me last night. Remember how warm and tender his lips felt as they kissed mine this morning, and the pain that arrows through me is so crippling that for a second I can't find the strength to move. As if sensing my presence, Marcus turns and looks straight at me, his cool blue gaze locking in on me with preternatural precision. With a curt word to the technician, he unclips the mic and heads toward me, descending from the stage with long, determined strides. The chill inside me intensifies until I'm shivering, the tremors running over my skin as I stand there, waiting for him to reach me. Even now, his presence is magnetic, his effect on me as potent as it's ever been. Marcus Corelli, my boyfriend, my lover, my stalker. Everything about him is achingly familiar, from the proud tilt of his dark head to the powerful breadth of his shoulders in that perfectly tailored suit. But do I really know him? Who is the man I've fallen in love with? Has anything about us been real?
Emma.
He's now just a few feet away, and I see the lines of strain etched into his face, the guilt and worry in those intense blue eyes. He must have realized what I've uncovered, remembered what else is on the drive. Sure enough, as soon as he stops next to me, he says in a low voice,
Emma, kitten, listen to me. I can explain.
Here. I shove the flash drive into his hand. Good luck with the presentation, and goodbye. And before I can either explode or shatter into pieces, I turn on my heel and run.
Chapter 45. Marcus. Fuck. The flash drive burns a hole in my palm as I watch Emma flee, her bright hair like a ray of sunlight in a room filled with people dressed mostly in gray and black. To my right, a business acquaintance starts speaking to me. To my left, 2 reporters vie for my attention. But the words coming out of their mouths are white noise, as is the din of the audience waiting for my presentation. I've never seen Emma so pale, so fucking wounded. It's as if the life drained out of her, all her warmth and fire gone. The moment I realized what happened, I wanted to hit rewind and forget all about asking Emma to bring the flash drive. I could have made do with the older version of my presentation. So what if a few slides wouldn't have been as detailed as I liked? But all I could do was wait for her to arrive and carry on with the preparations for my speech, as if I still gave a damn about the biotech stock or my reputation, as if my world wasn't about to fall apart. Yet as much as I dreaded this confrontation, the reality of it turned out to be infinitely worse, the pain in Emma's eyes more devastating than any verbal lashing. I was prepared for her anger, but not that lifeless good luck and goodbye. Her bright head disappears through the ballroom doors, and it's like the sun just set, stealing all the warmth from the room. And I know that if she walks out of my life, this cold will grow and engulf me, coating me in a layer of ice that no amount of joy or happiness will ever penetrate. I don't consciously make the choice to begin walking. My feet move forward of their own accord. All around me are confused looks and murmurs, my name being called out on all sides. The conference organizer jogs up to me, hissing, "It's almost 8. We need you up there now, Corelli." But I step around him, picking up my pace. The crowd is thickening with last-minute arrivals, and I push my way through them, muttering, "Excuse me," left and right. As soon as I'm out in the hallway, I break into a run. Emma is already crossing the street when I rush out of the hotel with the conference organizer on my heels. "Emma, wait!" I call out, but she doesn't hear me, her small figure weaving in and out of traffic, oblivious to the slow-moving cars. She's so upset she doesn't realize the light has just turned red, I comprehend with a surge of dread, and ignoring the organizer's attempt to grab my sleeve, I leap into the intersection after her. It's rush hour, with the usual insanity on Fifth Avenue, which means any lengthening in the usual 2-foot distance between cars is greeted by drivers madly surging forward, desperate to cut in front of others. And I see such a lengthening happening in front of Emma as a white van accelerates much slower than the nimble sports car it's following. "Emma!" I shout at the top of my lungs, but with the noise of traffic, she can't hear me. Her head is down as she steps in front of the van, her hands clutching the lapels of her ancient coat to protect her neck against the freezing wind. She doesn't see the danger, doesn't notice the yellow cab revving up its engine next to the van, and with the van blocking the cab driver's view, I doubt he sees her. My heart rate skyrocketing, I launch into a sprint, ignoring the panicked honking all around me. My lungs pump like I'm in the last stretches of a marathon, my vision narrowing until all I see is that small red-haired figure and the cab about to swerve into her. "Emma!" I'm now close enough for my frantic bellow to reach her, and she turns, only to freeze in place, her eyes widening as she sees me, and the cab barreling at her. In a flash, I take in the driver's terror-stricken face as he registers her presence, hear the squealing of the brakes, and I know he won't stop in time. It's physically impossible. Time seems to slow to a crawl, each millisecond startlingly vivid as the deafening roar of my pulse separates into distinct heartbeats. Thump, thump. I put on a burst of speed. Thump, thump. I launch myself into the air, my arms outstretched. Thump, thump. Emma's face, ghost white, her lips forming my name as my hands collide with her chest, the impact throwing her back 5 feet and out of harm's way. Thump. A massive force slams into my side, and darkness engulfs me.
Chapter 46. Emma. My back hits the asphalt so hard that for a few long seconds I can't breathe, my vision going in and out. Then, with a wheeze, my lungs drag in air, and I bounce up to my feet, driven by a terror so hideous I'm oblivious to any and all pain. "Marcus!" Ignoring the dizziness trying to fell me, I rush toward the prone figure in a business suit sprawled on the asphalt a few feet away. All the cars are now at full stop, the drivers jumping out and yelling. The yellow cab driver starts shouting curses at me, but I pay him zero attention. All my focus is on the man lying on his back in front of the cab, his face partially turned away and his arm at an odd angle. Dropping to my knees in front of Marcus, I frantically search for the pulse in his neck, and a sob of relief bursts from my throat as I feel it, strong and steady. But then I notice blood pooling around his head, and the hideous fear returns with a vengeance. "He needs an ambulance!" I look around, fumbling in my pocket for my phone. I can't find it, and my panic spikes. "Someone call 911!"
"They're already on their way,"
a man in a gray suit says, sounding out of breath as he kneels next to me.
"I can't believe Corelli jumped in front of that. Holy shit, you're about to pass out."
I don't realize he's talking about me until someone grabs my arms and makes me lie down next to Marcus, saying something about shock and possible injuries. In the distance, sirens wail, and my dizziness intensifies, bringing with it a surge of nausea. Rolling onto my side, I retch, and by the time my stomach is empty, we're surrounded by a swarm of paramedics. Chapter 47. Emma.
"Emma. Kitten."
The raspy sound of Marcus's voice jolts me awake, and I jump to my feet, nearly knocking over the chair I'd fallen asleep in. "You're awake. Thank God, finally." I seize his right hand in both of mine, so overcome with relief, I barely register the pain in my back. "How are you feeling?" He blinks up at me slowly, and I know that he's still connecting the dots, wondering why my eyes are wet, yet I'm smiling. But that confusion is normal, expected. The important thing is that after 18 hours of not regaining consciousness, Marcus is awake and knows who I am.
"What?"
He dampens his dry lips as I perch on the edge of his bed.
"What happened?"
His gaze sharpens.
"Wait, the cab, are you—"
"I'm fine. Here, drink this." Releasing his hand, I hold a cup of water with a straw to his mouth and watch him take a big sip, the muscles in his powerful throat working as he swallows. My chest squeezes at the sight, my joy so intense it verges on agony. With a heavy stubble covering his lean cheeks, the right side of his jaw swollen, and a huge white bandage wrapped around his head, he looks as terrible as a man that magnetic can look. But he's awake and functioning. He's going to be all right.
"What happened?"
he repeats when he's had his fill of water. His voice sounds like his throat has been rubbed with sandpaper, but his blue eyes are clear and sharp as he takes in the cast on his left arm and all the IVs and monitors hooked up to him. I set the cup of water down on the bedside table. "Tell me how you feel first."
"Like my skull's been sawed open and filled with broken glass."
He touches the bandage on his head with his uninjured hand, wincing when his fingers brush over his swollen jaw.
"Also like I've been hit by a car. Is that what happened?"
"Yes." I take a breath to steady myself. "You pushed me out of the way of that cab and took the full impact yourself. In the process, you broke your arm and split your head open on the pavement. You're also bruised and scraped all over. The doctor said—" My voice is beginning to shake, my throat closing up, so I drag in another breath. "They said it was a miracle there were no internal injuries or other broken bones, and that they didn't think you sustained any brain damage, though after the first few hours, they started getting concerned that you weren't waking up." I squeeze my eyes shut to contain the tears, but it's a futile effort. They leak out from under my closed eyelids, and when I open my eyes, I find Marcus gazing at me tenderly.
"What about you, kitten?"
Pushing a button to raise the bed to a half-sitting position, he lays a gentle hand on my knee.
"Were you hurt? I pushed you pretty hard."
A half-sob, half-laugh bubbles up my throat. "Yeah, you basically tackled me football style. Did you play that in college or something?"
"No, just in high school, freshman year. Afterward, I switched to lacrosse and soccer. I figured all that head bumping couldn't be too good for the brain, and I needed every neuron for the future I had planned."
He grins, then worry returns to his eyes.
"So, were you hurt?"
I shake my head, a watery smile touching my lips. "No, not really. I hit the ground pretty hard, but my back is only a little sprained and bruised. The shock was the worst of it. They kept feeding me sugary liquids in the ambulance so I wouldn't pass out or throw up again. My smile fades, and I swallow as my throat swells up again. They said you might have saved my life. With how fast that cab was going and the angle he was coming at me from, my voice cracks. And you could have also been killed or gotten severely injured. If you'd hit your head any harder or fallen a different way. A shudder ripples down my spine. Never do this to me again, you hear me? I grip his hand, the remembered fear chilling my insides. Promise me, Marcus. Promise you'll never do something this crazy again. His jaw flexes.
I can't. When I saw that car coming at you and realized it wouldn't be able to stop.
He squeezes his eyes shut, his fingers tightening on mine as he relives what must be a horrible memory. And I know exactly how he feels. I will never get the image of him lying unconscious and bleeding out of my mind. Never forget how I felt in those terrifying moments before I felt his pulse and knew he was alive. If I'd lost him, if he'd been killed because of me, God, I can't even imagine that agony. The mere thought of it is so painful it's like having my soul ripped apart. Marcus. I wait for him to open his eyes, then ask in a strained voice, why didn't you give your presentation? The man who came running after you said you just left, walked out of there with no explanation to anyone. His gaze darkens.
Why do you think? Kitten, about that PI report.
He pulls his hand away and presses the button to sit more upright.
I didn't do it out of evil intent, I swear.
I take a breath and slowly let it out. Why did you do it then? I've been so worried about him I've scarcely given those files any thought. But now that I know he's going to be all right, the pain of betrayal is returning, though it's nowhere near as sharp as before. Having faced the specter of losing him, really losing him, I know that no matter what he tells me, I'm not going to walk away.
Why?
Marcus repossesses my hand, his fingers curling tightly around mine.
Because I wanted you, Emma. Because when you sent me away after that broken door evening, I couldn't stop thinking about you, no matter how hard I tried. I worked, I ate, I slept, I exercised, I went out with friends and business colleagues. But all of that was done on autopilot, because the entire time all I could think about was you. When you texted me, sent me that hey, it was like my world flipped from shades of gray to HD color. But then you said you didn't mean to text me, implied you were seeing someone else, and I...
His jaw clenches.
Well, I went kind of batshit.
Like you did with Ian? I ask wryly, and he nods, though there's no trace of answering amusement on his face.
Like that, he says grimly. Only worse because you weren't yet mine, and I knew that if I didn't do something, I may never have known what it would be like if you were.
So you, what, commissioned this report?
Yes.
His gaze is unwavering.
There's a PI I use to keep tabs on important executives at the companies we invest in. I'd never had him investigate anyone I dated before, but after that text, I had to know if you were, in fact, seeing someone, and more importantly, what I could do to win you back.
He draws in a breath, then says bluntly,
I needed to know what makes you tick, kitten, and short of outright stalking you, this was the only way.
Wow. Pulling my hand out of his grasp, I get up and start to pace, my thoughts tumbling like clothes in a dryer. There's so much to unravel here, so many layers of conflicting emotions to dig through. What Marcus did is horribly wrong, the invasion of my privacy deplorable. It's also frightening that he could do that, both that he had the means and that he was willing to go that far to get what he wanted, which was me. And that's what complicates matters, because I can't say I'm sorry he got his way. If he hadn't come at me with all those perfectly selected gifts, if he hadn't been so ruthless and persistent, I might have found the strength to stay away from him, and then we wouldn't be here today. I would have never known the terrifying, exhilarating high of being in love with this man. He watches me pace with the intensity of a cat tracking a stray lizard, and I know it's because he decided that this is the best approach, that he needs to give me time to process these revelations. Even now, his devious mind is working on a way to spin this situation, to turn it to his advantage so he can get what he wants, which presumably is still me. "What else?" I demand, stopping in front of the bed. "Is there more I should know?" He hesitates for a long moment, and an incredulous laugh escapes my throat. "There is, isn't it? What is it?" A muscle flexes in his jaw.
"I may have delayed your plane the day you were flying to Florida. Also, I asked a realtor to speak to your landlady about putting the townhouse on the market, and more recently, I arranged for Weston Long to buy it."
I'm so stunned I sink onto the bed, my knees buckling underneath me. "For God's sake, why?" His blue eyes glint fiercely.
"The plane, because I was stuck in traffic and couldn't have caught you in the airport otherwise. And the townhouse, because—"
His chest rises and falls on an unsteady breath.
"Because I'm crazy, madly, obsessively in love with you, kitten. To the point that I can't bear the thought of spending a night apart. I want you with me every moment of every day. I want to fall asleep with you in my embrace and wake up to the smell of your hair on my pillow. I want to see your smile over breakfast every morning and talk to you at dinner every night. You're my addiction, my obsession, my reason for existing. And there's nothing I won't do to earn your love. Emma, kitten." He grips my hand again. "I love you, and I want you to marry me. I want you forever in my life."
My mouth works, but no words come out, my chest feeling like it's about to burst. The stark longing in his voice, the unconcealed vulnerability in his gaze. It undoes me completely, cutting through the tangle of conflicting emotions like scissors through a knot. Marcus wants to marry me. He loves me. Really, truly loves me. So much so he jumped in front of a car to save me. And before that, crossed all sorts of lines to get us where we are. And in hindsight, what did I expect? Would a man as ruthless as this leave something as important as matters of the heart to chance? Did I honestly think he'd meekly hang back in the hopes that I'll work through my insecurities before the end of the next decade? No, that's not how Marcus Corelli operates. He goes after what he wants, and the more he wants it, the harder he fights for it. I was right to picture him as a modern-day pirate. He is, and I've been his desired loot all along.
"Emma."
His eyes narrow, his grip on my hand tightening.
"Kitten, say something."
I force my paralyzed tongue into action. "What about your criteria? Don't you want to marry some glamorous, sophisticated socialite? Someone who knows all about the latest fashions and politics and can—"
"No."
There's utter certainty in his voice.
"That's what I thought I wanted, but I was wrong. There was only one criterion that ever truly mattered to me. Only one thing I wanted my future wife to be."
"And what's that?"
"My family. Someone I can count on."
He pauses, then adds softly,
"A woman unlike my mother."
My heart squeezes to the size of a pinprick, my lungs stalling as tears prickle at the back of my throat again. Marcus hasn't talked much about his childhood, only dropping hints here and there, but it doesn't take much imagination to picture what it was like. His mother had been an alcoholic, he'd told me, a 24/7 drunk. Of course he couldn't count on her. Whatever love she had for her son would have been swamped by her addiction to the bottle. No wonder he'd embraced my grandparents so eagerly. Whereas I've always had their love to sustain me, he's never had anything close to an actual family, to people he could rely on and trust. Looking at him now, at this gorgeous, powerful man I've always viewed as being out of my league, I realize for the first time that I can be what he needs. I can give him love and family and the entirety of my heart. He's watching me keenly, waiting for my answer, so I drag in a breath and say, "You know I come with cats, right? It's 3 of them now, but I may want to adopt more in the future. There are so many in shelters that could use a good home, and I may want to get a dog or 2 one day as well." His eyes flare with banked triumph, but his voice is even.
"The more the merrier. Fill the entire penthouse with pets if you want. Hell, I'll buy you a bigger one, a mansion, a castle, an island. We'll have an entire zoo if you're so inclined."
I bite the inside of my cheek. I was half joking about more pets, but I'm glad to hear he's on board. "What about kids?" I ask. "I think I want 3.
"Done."
His gaze turns scorching hot.
"Let's start on the first one right away."
"Wait!" I yelp as he pulls me to him, his strength undiminished by his injuries. "Marcus, wait. You're hurt, and the doctors, they'll be here at any moment. Also," I brace my hand on his pillow, keeping our lips from joining, "I need to tell you something." He stills, wariness stealing into his eyes.
"What is it?"
I push on the pillow, forcing him to let me sit up straight. Laying my palm on his knee, I say steadily, "I love you, Marcus. I have since before Florida. When you left me that Sunday, it felt like you ripped out a piece of my heart, and I've been afraid of getting hurt ever since. But I'm not anymore. I was going to tell you that when you came home after your presentation, and I'm so sorry you couldn't give it because of me." An achingly tender smile blooms on his face.
"Kitten,
No, wait, let me finish." I take a breath. "I love you, Marcus, and I want to be with you, but I'm not okay with what you've done. If we're to get married, I need you to promise that you'll never again spy on me or manipulate my life in any way. Can you do that? Can you make me that promise?" His eyes burn tiger bright.
"Yes, my sweet, as long as you promise never to leave me and marry me before the end of the year."
"What?" My jaw falls open. "Today is December 17th.
"I know."
Ruthlessly, he draws me closer. "The end of the year is 2 weeks from now." His lips brush over mine.
"I know."
"Marcus, we really need to talk about—" He claims my lips with a deep, mind-stealing kiss, and by the time he lets me come up for air, his heart rate monitor is beeping, bringing the nurses in. Epilogue. 1 year later. Emma. The princess-cut diamond on my finger glitters as I smooth my palms over the front of my black dress, marveling at how the silky material flatters my postpartum curves. I still have a tiny hint of a belly, but in this perfectly tailored dress, it's impossible to tell.
"You look gorgeous,"
Marcus says huskily, stepping up to the mirror behind me.
"Absolutely stunning."
He cups my breasts, which are now a full 2 sizes larger, thanks to the milk our voracious little monster demands. The dress exposes only a hint of cleavage, but it's enough to get my husband's attention. What am I saying? Existing is enough to get my husband's attention. I have it always, no matter how I look or what I wear. When I was pregnant, he spent hours each day exploring my changing body, stroking and loving me, and making me feel like I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. And in the 6 weeks since I've given birth, he's been climbing walls and counting down the minutes until the doctor clears me to resume our highly active sex life. Not that we haven't found ways around the restrictions. For a man whose career is all about numbers and facts, Marcus can be quite creative. This is an exciting week for us. Yesterday, my husband's investment idea from last year, the biotech stock that was the subject of his ill-fated keynote presentation, took the top prize at this year's Alpha Zone. Marcus couldn't pitch it himself because of the accident, so he had his chief investment officer, Jared Lee, do it in his stead later that week. As Marcus had hoped, the company got approval for their blood pressure drug, and the price of the stock more than quadrupled over the past year, generating tremendous returns for Marcus's fund and everyone else who had the wisdom to buy it on his recommendation. Tonight is another big night, and not just because I got the green light from my OBGYN this afternoon. Something I plan to tell Marcus after the book signing, lest we end up horribly late. And I can't be late, because this is my book signing, arranged at my request at Smith's & Books. My publicist wanted me to do it at Barnes & Noble, but I insisted. I might have left my full-time job when my romantic thriller, the second book I self-published, landed on the New York Times list of bestsellers, but Mr. Smithson's bookshop still feels like my second home. "We better go before he wakes up," I say, my own voice huskier than usual as I meet Marcus's gaze in the mirror. The sight of his big hands possessively splayed over my breasts is beyond erotic, as is the warmth coming off his palms. I can feel it even through my dress and bra, and my underwear grows damp as I picture what's going to happen in a few hours when I tell him that I've been officially cleared. Oh yeah, it's going to be a big night, assuming our little milk monster cooperates. Joshua Reed Corelli does not like to be kept waiting, and he much prefers getting his nourishment directly from the breast. If we don't leave soon, he's going to let us know, loudly, that he's hungry, and if I'm anywhere in the penthouse, he won't rest until I've fed him myself. If I'm away, however, he'll be perfectly content with a nanny feeding him the milk I've pre-pumped. It's scary how manipulative and downright psychic our 6-week-old baby can be. Must have gotten it from his daddy.
"All right," Marcus says, reluctantly releasing my breasts. "But let's just peek in on him for a second, okay?"
"Okay, but if he wakes up, it's on you," I say with a tender grin as I follow him to the baby's room. There are dedicated fathers, and then there's Marcus. My husband is as obsessed with our infant son as he is with me, so much so that our nanny complains that whenever he's home, she has nothing to do. My neat freak billionaire may avoid scooping cat litter, but he changes diapers like a pro. To my relief, when we step into the nursery, we find little Reed, for some reason we have trouble calling him Josh or Joshua, sleeping soundly, surrounded by his usual companions, our cats. Mr. Puffs is his current favorite, and sure enough, our son is sleeping with the cat's fluffy tail clutched in his tiny fist. I was worried when he started grabbing it at 2 weeks of age. Puffs is not exactly known for his patience. But for whatever reason, my biggest, meanest cat has decided that the baby is allowed to torment him however he pleases, and instead of running away or swatting the infant with his paw, he stays put and suffers in silence.
"He's appointed himself your son's guardian," Joffrey told us, and I'm pretty sure the butler's right.
The same must be true for my other cats as well, because they now spend most of their day with a baby. At this very moment, Cotton Ball is warming his feet, Queen Elizabeth is guarding the top of his head, and Mouse, the 9-month-old calico who's the newest addition to our family, is curled up at his side. Marcus is the one who found her and brought her home. He had a business meeting in Greenwich, Connecticut 4 months ago, and as he was waiting for the train back to the city, Mouse trotted up to him, meowing at full volume. She was painfully thin, clearly malnourished, so Marcus fed her some tuna from his sandwich, and a love affair was born.
"She followed me onto the train,"
he explained apologetically when he brought the kitten home from the vet.
"I couldn't chase her off now, could I? And the vet said the shelters are full."
"You did the right thing," I said firmly, though I was somewhat worried about introducing the kitten to my cats. Next to them, she was tiny, like a mouse, and I was afraid they'd treat her like one. But after a couple of hours of wary looks and arched backs, Queen Elizabeth embraced the newcomer, and her siblings followed suit, welcoming the kitten, now officially named Mouse, into our household, where she's been thriving and loving Marcus ever since. Yes, my once anti-pet husband now has 2 cats, Cotton Ball and Mouse, madly in love with him, and he doesn't mind it one bit.
"Just look at that. I think my heart is melting,"
Marcus whispers, staring at the baby and cat's tableau, and I nod, too choked up to speak. I feel like that all the time these days, and I think it's only partially the postpartum hormones. We didn't get married last December, a victory I achieved by arguing that I didn't want Marcus to wear a cast at our wedding. Instead, we said our vows at the end of January, some 6 weeks after his hospital proposal, on the pier in Flagler Beach. It was a small, intimate ceremony with just my grandparents and our closest friends, whom Marcus flew to Florida in his private plane. Afterward, we honeymooned in Fiji, where my husband pulled out all the stops, renting us a luxurious, over-the-water bungalow on a private island. For 3 weeks straight, we swam in the crystal-clear waters, feasted on tropical fruit, and lazed around. Or our version of lazing around, which involved our laptops and a fair amount of work. It was during those weeks that I wrote the majority of my first book, also a romantic thriller, which I quietly self-published 2 months later under a pen name and with zero expectations of commercial success. To my surprise, it sold. A few dozen copies the first week, and a few hundred the second, as favorable retailer algorithms kicked in. Then some prominent bloggers picked it up, and a week later, I took Marcus out to his favorite Singleberry restaurant and fessed up about my secret project and how well it's done. He was proud of me, if more than a little hurt that I hadn't told him earlier, and I promised never to hide anything from him again. Now he's my most avid fan, reading each scene as I write it and offering suggestions, and talking up my books to everyone we meet. He also funded the advertising campaign for my second novel, helping it hit all the bestseller lists. Or rather, we funded it. Since shortly after we got married, I agreed to combine our accounts. We're family, and there's no longer his or mine, only ours. So yes, I'm now a full-time author, though I still edit on the side for some of my old clients, mostly because I enjoy it. The flexibility of my new career suits me, especially since Marcus and I decided not to wait to have children, and our little milk muncher was conceived almost right away. I was right about Marcus's swimmers. They are as ruthless and determined as the man himself. Standing next to him now, seeing the love and tenderness on his strong, handsome face, I feel a surge of happiness so intense my chest feels too small to contain it. "I love you," I whisper, lacing our fingers together, and as his gaze shifts to me, his cool blue eyes kindling with that dark, fierce hunger, I know that for him, I'll always be a prize worth fighting for, worth crossing any line for, and I wouldn't have it any other way.